Good evening, good afternoon, depends on where you are. Welcome to another Sunday pub. If you've never been here before and you don't know what this is, it's a bookish nerdery hangout chat kind of thing, casual and relaxed, that I do every Sunday. And people are welcome to join me on screen if they know how to get the link. Hello, Colton. Colton's here. Peter's here. Good to see you, Peter. What are you guys reading? How has your week been? How has your holiday craziness been? Good evening, Daniel. Good to see you, man. My Christmas, usually, because I've lived outside of every country where I have family for many years, I don't really have any relatives nearby, and usually all of my friends are off visiting their relatives or whatever. This year, my very good friend Jason, who is an American, also an expat living in Berlin, he had a little expats dinner for me and some other friends of ours that are far away from their families. And oh my God, we ate so much. Kale joining us from Australia. Jerome joining us from the Netherlands. Terry, good to see you. Kale is reading The Passage. I know I've heard of that, but I can't bring to mind what exactly that is at the moment. Solenoid by Mircea, last name I won't even try and pronounce. Don't know that. City of Last Chances. Mitch, you're doing yourself a favor. That is a very cool book. It's when I did the special edition Sunday Pub with Adrian Tchaikovsky, he said he also thought he leveled up in a way on that book, and I totally think he did. It's very different from any of his other books and really, really good. I'm impressed by any author that manages to keep that much different stuff all clear in their head and put it together into a coherent story. The Bone Hunters, Colton. I know Colton just read Chapter 7, the legendary Chapter 7 of The Bone Hunters. It's kind of weird when a book has a universally recognized legendary chapter, but Chapter 7 of The Bone Hunters is one of those chapters. Oh my goodness. It's I felt like I personally had been through a physical ordeal after reading Chapter 7 of The Bone Hunters. The Winter King. Remind me what that is, Terry. I know the title, but I don't remember what it is. Jerome is reading Alastair Reynolds, so he's gotten off of some bizarre book that no one's ever heard of and is reading a proper author, finally. Well done, Jerome. Hi, Morton, joining us from Denmark, if I remember correctly. Rick the Reader, I don't remember seeing you here before. Are you here the first time, or are you just commenting for the first time? Currently reading the Rogues Anthology. Oh, right, yeah. I've got, there's a whole series of those which have different sort of subjects, and I think one of them kind of in the same series is called Dangerous Women. There's two Dangerous Women, and I've got both of those short story anthologies. But Rogues by Scott Lynch, Abercrombie, Rothfuss. Okay, that actually sounds like maybe I should pick it up. Saw family 5 of the last 6 days. Social battery is at 0. Very understandable. I haven't had that in a long time because most of my family is in the US, and I haven't lived in the US since 1995, I think. So I haven't really had like a full-on family Christmas in a long time. I have an ex-wife, and we used to do her family Christmas, but it was usually only like one night, maybe a day, and then we were off doing our own thing. So Christmas has been pretty relaxed for me for a number of years. Some years I have absolutely nothing to do with it, which is actually a little bit sad, but most years it's kind of like this one where I've got like a nice dinner with some friends or something organized. So not too stressful, and certainly no family stress. Look who it is. It's Raph.
Hello, Matt. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
That sounds good.
Happy holidays, as they say.
Happy holidays. Or in my case, it's a Merry Mousemas because that's what I'm celebrating at the moment.
That's right. That's right. You're mouse missing. That's right.
I'm
I remember.
very much Mousemasing. The 5th day of Mousemas being today. The video is currently rendering.
Right. Cool. I have, in the last couple of days, been totally going crazy producing videos for my gaming channel. I've just been uploading a bunch of videos for my gaming channel, so it doesn't look like much is happening on my book channel, but my gaming channel is taking off. It's cool. It's really interesting seeing how different the audiences are. Like, I put up one video about a moderately popular game, and it gets like 5,000 views in a week, which is insane numbers for a book channel, or at least my book channel. So,
I mean, your book channel is still massively larger than mine, or growing faster than mine, which is interesting since you don't do videos at the moment.
well, my growth has more or less, it's not completely stopped, but it's it slowed down a hell of a lot when I stopped making videos. Live videos don't really pull people in, and the only thing I do is this now. So Sunday Pub. No Kale, it is not called Mad on Games 2. I really wish I could have gotten Mad on Games. That would have been perfect, but it was already taken. So it's called Curious Monkey, which, if anyone cares, I will spell in the chat because it's spelled weird. Yeah. Let me catch up here. Oh, Colton was asking about the Amber reread. I am still working on it. I'm not trying to read through this whole thing. I'm just reading one of the novels, which is Sign of the Unicorn. And I think I'm like 20 pages from done, or maybe even closer. So that's going good. Amber, all of the books are like 120 pages, 150 pages each. They're good, slim books to slip in between other chunkier things, which is how I'm doing it. K2, lots of social obligations, food and booze. Yeah, finally done with it all and won't have to leave my house for the next 2 to 3 days. And I'm so happy. Yeah, no, I can understand that. Like I said, I remember extremely busy holiday seasons. New Year's, I have absolutely no plans, and I'm fine with that. I will probably be making videos for my gaming channel.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the thing. Those videos take a long time because the game takes so long. So having holidays with no family obligations is probably the perfect time to stock up on those kind of videos because you don't have to work or anything. Makes sense.
Exactly. I'm actually unemployed again as well. Not really. I mean, my freelance contract ended.
Okay.
And I knew that was coming. It was always a contract until the end of the year, and maybe it will be continued next year. Probably not in the first couple of months. So I have a lot of time to create videos and start looking maybe for some other work. We'll see. Colton says, shout out to Belle. If you know, you know. Yes, I know. Poor Belle. Belle is one of those throwaway side characters that demonstrates a concept in the Malazan Book of the Fallen. Belle comes out of nowhere, never heard of him before, to throw himself on danger and protect the soldiers he's with during the siege of Igatan. So yeah, Bell is remarkably written because it's only a couple of sentences. It's like a paragraph where he's mentioned, but it's written to the point where you're moved by this character you've never heard before, sacrificing himself for others.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that Erickson is so good at.
Yeah. There are a couple of characters in Malazan where he like gives you a paragraph of like their internal thoughts, and then they get shot in the head or take a spear through the chest or something.
I think
they're amazing because I'm like, damn it, you just killed this guy and I shouldn't care, but I do. Yeah.
I think it works really well for the more military aspect of Malazan Book of the Fallen. Igatan being probably one of the biggest like military set pieces in a lot of. Yeah, but like just like the whole way that specific chapter is sort of written and choreographed is just impressive in that regard. And I think for
Chapter
that
7 is nuts.
Yeah.
Chapter 7 is like it's a novella for itself.
Yeah, it's over 100 pages, more like 150
it's
pages.
It's 100 almost 130. I think it's 128 in the edition I have anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, and like those like jumps for like totally characters you never meet again is something. Joe Abercrombie does the same thing in the Heroes or in his battle scenes in general, which the Heroes is most of that, and it works well for the genre of like the war movie and how to translate that into fiction, because in a lot of like war movies you also have those kind of characters that are just ground soldiers that just show up for like one scene and then they get slaughtered, and in that scene they still sort of show that like heroism that is part of like the average like soldier's experience that has like nothing to do with the big heroes that we see afterwards. It's more like the everyday guy doing everyday heroism for like 5 seconds and then they're dead.
Exactly. Hello, Ida. Yes, Peter. I'm a little stunned because I haven't done anything particularly special. I certainly haven't put more effort or editing skill into the gaming videos I've done compared to the book videos I've done. But the market for games
is bigger,
as opposed to the market for Malazan Book of the Fallen videos. The market for gaming videos, even on like the game I'm playing, is sort of a moderately popular game. It's not a huge hit or anything, but the market is still much, much bigger. So when I put my first video up and in a month it got like around 10,000 views, I was like, what is going on? This has more views than almost every video I ever made on my book channel, which is kind of bizarre, and that just seems to be normal for gaming videos. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
You just have a larger audience period. Like how many books, how many copies does Malazan Book of the Fallen has sold like over the its entirety? Like maybe a couple 10,000 if you're lucky. Like, and how many people have downloaded Medieval Dynasty at this point? Probably 1 million.
Yeah,
more.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't get it through Steam, so I don't have all the stats and stuff in front of me because I'm playing on Xbox. But yeah, no, it's just a larger market.
And I think the other part is that its audience is by definition more online because they have to be online to play the game, or not online, but you know what I mean, right? So they are on computers in a way that people that are reading books by definition are not, because they're supposed to have a book in front of their face and not a screen.
Well, and it's also pretty normal for every gamer to go and look at videos about the game they're playing. Especially if you're playing a complex game, you always go and look because you want to learn how to play it and you want tips and tricks and that sort of stuff. And not every reader goes online to look at videos about the book they're reading. Like, why would you? We're weird that way as far as readers go. Most readers just read a book, and maybe they're in a book club and they talk to people in their book club about it or whatever. But
the overlap between gamers and consumers of gaming videos is much larger than the overlap between readers and consumers of BookTube videos.
Yeah.
It's just like how it goes, I guess.
Ida, Belle is, like I said, Belle is literally mentioned in one relatively short paragraph. There's
He's in one of the buildings, I think, is the point, right? He's like when they
I think
first
they're
discover
in the
what's going
street.
on.
I think they're in the
Yeah.
street actually, but there is a guy, an enemy who tries to suicide bomb them essentially.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah,
And
right. Yeah.
Belle tackles him and dies.
Yeah.
And all of his soldier friends that he's with do not die because of him. Hi, Thornall. Thornall's here. Alicia's here. Good to see you all. Evie's here, but like a traitor, she is just stopping by to say hi. Because she's in the final stretch of Days of Shattered Faith and she wants and needs to finish it. Understandable. I am very curious about that. Hey, Joe, how you doing, man? Good to see you. If you, I don't know, Joe, do you hang out ever on the Fireside Discord? If you want to join on screen, I can send you a link, but it's also in the usual place on the Fireside. Evie, Peter wants to know, did Max's toy arrive? It did. Max says thank you, and she is also grateful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ida stayed up until 3 a.m. on the final stretch of Guns of the Dawn. That is my main advice for people when they say they're going to read the Bone Hunters. I'm like, don't start chapter 7 later than like 8 p.m. Because I started it at 11 and I was up until 4 in the morning. Because once I started that chapter, I just had to finish it.
That's like one of the good things about audiobooks on Audible in particular, is that you know how much time the upcoming chapter will be. So you can decide to go for the 4 hours and something that is chapter 7, or you can go like, well, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah. Exactly. Mitch is asking, am I planning on reading House of Open Wounds soon? Yes, but soon is an indefinite period of time, not too far in the future. The thing is, I've committed to read Curse of the Mistwraith by Jenny Wirtz for the big read along, which John Minton at Talking Story is hosting. A bunch of people are joining it. I'm in it. Vera's in it. BookTube's in it. A bunch of people are reading along. I think Andrew Wizard is also joining, etc., etc. And it's a chunky book. Jenny's prose is also something not to be flown over. So I think it will be probably a slower read than usual. And yeah, we'll see. I basically want to finish this, not the whole book, but I'll probably finish this tonight. Actually, if we do a sprint or two, I'll finish this. Sign of the Unicorn, the third Amber novel, and then it'll be January, and I will start Curse of the Mistwraith and focus on that.
I own that book, but I have not read it, and I don't know if or when I will.
Yeah, well, we've talked about this before. Your problem is that the audiobooks only exist for, what is it, 1 and 10 and 11?
Yes, those. And I was hoping that now that they did book 1, that they would also do book 2, but so far it is not yet available for, pre-order or anything of the sort. So I don't know if they are actually planning to do one. Maybe I could probably just tweet or blue sky at Jenny Wirtz, because she's very trigger happy when it comes to replying to people. But I also feel like weird about going like, hey, by the way, what's up with that? Especially if there is like a business thing that she probably doesn't want to talk about in public. If there is like,
it's also like, if I understand anything about publishing, I would imagine that she has about 0% control over that.
Oh yeah,
It doesn't have anything to do with her. Like she can jump up and down all she wants and say, You
Yeah,
should
of
make
course.
audiobooks of my
Yeah.
books, and no one's going to do it. You know.
No, of course. I mean, it's more like that. If the next one is actually being recorded, she probably knows long before there is sort of like an official
Sure.
pre-order or anything of the sorts. And
Sure.
knowing that the second one is definitely coming would already mean a lot to me. It's like knowing that it is coming is already,
But you can also count on it that she is not allowed to publicly say it's coming until there's an official announcement anyway.
That is unfortunately also true. Although I have had
Probably.
situations where like authors go like, well, yes, there will be one sometime next year. We just don't know when.
Yeah,
Sometimes
sure.
authors are like, it's in the contract, it'll happen. I just don't know when. And that's already,
Yeah.
more than enough for me.
That is information. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. So probably, Mitch, like as soon as January starts, so day after tomorrow or day after tomorrow, I will start Curse of the Mist Wraith. And when I finish that, I will start House of Open Wounds, unless my mood is totally not cooperating for it. Joe is trying to join, but all I'm getting is this weird... This weird camera thing. I think I can hear Joe. Joe,
Yeah.
say something.
I can hear noises.
Yeah, I hear noises, which aren't you or me. There he is. There he is.
Hey guys, let me get
How
my
you doing,
camera.
Joe?
There you are.
I have a mic.
Oh, we can hear you pretty good.
I have a better mic.
All
You
right.
can hear me through this? I didn't even realize.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
Okay,
apparently your Elgato camera has a,
It
has a mic.
it's one I have it plugged in, and if I join a stream, I have to unplug it and plug it back in for the software to realize it's there, which doesn't seem right, but I don't know how to.
That is dumb. Yeah, that
Yeah,
shouldn't
so I'm
be
literally-
happening that way.
It's
It's
like
also
kicking the
very-
tires.
It's
Yeah.
also very apt for computers these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My much cheaper, lower quality webcam did not have this.
Yeah.
Right, I get the much better hardware, and now it's like, oh, it's doing different things. So anyway, Happy New Year and Merry Christmas, you guys.
Likewise.
And happy Hanukkah to you.
Thank you. Yes, it is. It's going to be night 5. I lost track.
I think it's night 5.
Colton,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't.
We
Even,
live-
I know Hanukkah exists, but I'm so far from being Jewish, and I don't know that I've ever had any close Jewish friends to
Hanukkah
celebrate Hanukkah with. So I've never really gotten when what is and when it starts and stops and all that.
It's really for kids. Like traditionally, it's sort of a thing you do for the kids. You buy the kids gifts. It's not a Christmas analog exactly, and it's interesting
Right.
because you don't buy, like, if you're an adult, like I wouldn't buy my wife a Hanukkah present the way an adult would buy their wife a Christmas present, right? Would be considered normal, but it was sort of abnormal. People, I think, are doing more of that maybe as time goes on, as they make it more Christmassy, but traditionally it wasn't. So if I don't have kids around, I don't even bother with the candles.
Yeah.
But my son was here, so for the first 3 nights we lit candles, but then I returned him to the other parent. So now I don't even know if I'm going to bother. But my wife really likes holidays. So despite the fact that she's not Jewish, she really wants me to light candles. So I'll probably end up. So my Muslim wife will get me. She's the one who bought the menorah. She made sure I ordered candles. It's her. And I'm just
Your
like, do
Muslim
we have
wife
to?
is
Yes. And this
forcing
is
you
not
to
a joke.
light the menorah.
This is not a joke. This is not an exaggeration in any sense.
Yeah.
So I probably will end up lighting it, because she'll be like, "Oh, we gotta do the candles, Joe." And I'm like, if you say so. I mean, it's not a big burden, you know.
I'm the Jew and I don't care.
I really don't. I'm not particularly religious, so it's all kind of funny.
That's
my sister is doing the menorah thing now that she has a kid as well.
Yeah.
Although her husband, like my brother-in-law, is not exactly religious, but he's like, it's part of our culture, and the kid gets the Christmas tree, Christmas stuff. So I also want her to have the candle thing. So they have a menorah, and
Right.
It's interesting. It's like the way I see it, Hanukkah is the one Jewish holiday where Jews actually celebrate winning something and not almost being killed, which is about all the other holidays that I remember, which is usually, hey, we survived.
Yeah. Yes, that is true. It's also a non-biblical holiday, and it's also I have the feeling that if I had been there, I would have been on the wrong side of that war. Because
Most people would have been, I think.
Yeah, but you celebrate the Maccabees who won, but they were really the ones who were trying to basically kick the butts of the more secular Jews who were the predominant sort of cultural force in Israel at the time. And they like wanted to return to a much more traditional thing. And I'm like, I'm kind of one of the secular Jews, pretty much. I probably would have been, Judah the Hammer would have been lowered on me, not on the other guys. So
Yeah, probably.
It takes a little bit of this of the joy out of the holiday for me. But if someone else is loving Hanukkah, please go ahead and love Hanukkah.
Like your Muslim wife.
Yes, who loves Hanukkah. We have a Christmas tree too. I'm like, there's no Christians in this house, sweetheart. But we have to have a Christmas tree.
Can you get little tiny menorahs and put them on the Christmas tree?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure there's
put
a
it all
thriving
together.
I'm sure there's a thriving Hanukkah ornament industry here.
And there used to be I'm sure it still is, but they used to have like a Christmas market in Haifa in Israel, which Haifa is a very multi-religious city with a lot of like Christian and Arab population, and they had like at the beginning of the Christmas market, and the Christmas market thing is like the main street that goes up to Mount Carmel and the Baha'i Gardens up there, and they have like a huge Christmas tree, and on top of the Christmas tree, instead of an angel, they had like a menorah on it, and they had like a half moon for like the Muslim part of the city as well on it. And it looks incredibly kitschy, but also for that specific place, it's surprisingly wholesome.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time in Haifa, but I was much younger, so my memories are those of a 5-year-old. So it's
a nice city.
Otto, let me say quickly, you are wise. Reading Gardens of the Moon, starting Memory, Sorrow and Thorn, and reading Curse of the Mistwraith in January would be
a lot
unwise. Yeah. But Gardens of the Moon and starting Memory, Sorrow and Thorn, Dragonbone Chair is almost unwise, perhaps, but it's doable.
You need a palate cleanser in between some of those books. You need something short, maybe with spandex.
Some Dresden, or maybe some space superheroes punching ships and
punching spaceships. Yeah. Dresden would be good.
Dresden is one of my favorite sort of light palate cleansery kind of things. But lately it's been Discworld actually.
Yeah, Discworld does that as well, very well.
Yeah,
I would argue
totally out of the epic thick book feeling and into something lighter and funner.
Yeah, although I would argue that it's possible to read Memory of Sorrow, Thorn and Malazan at the same time, because while they're both very big books, they are very, very different in style and like sort of like the amount of attention you need to pay. Like, Memory of Sorrow, Thorn is more like running a marathon. You can just like if you have the stamina to turn pages, you can read this without.
As long as you keep going, you'll be fine. Yeah, exactly.
You'll not miss much and then have to go back or anything of the sort. Whereas with Malazan, so having two books of attention. Reading Malazan alongside, like say, Gravity's Rainbow is something I would not recommend.
No. In fact, like if I wouldn't recommend reading Gravity's Rainbow myself at all, but I've read it. I tried twice. I think on the third try I did finish it, but I don't think I've ever read a book that made me feel stupider. It just wasn't fun.
Pretty good at that.
Yeah, like Gene Wolfe always makes me feel like I want to learn more. It makes me aware that there's a lot of stuff going on in the book I don't know enough about, but it makes me it gives me the feeling I want to learn enough to really understand it. Whereas Gravity's Rainbow just made me feel stupid. And I ended up thinking, Thomas Pynchon, you can get fucked. I don't know. Yeah. Didn't like it.
But Thornell's asking if Zelazny would qualify as a palate cleanser, and I think most of it would, simply because it's like they're shorter, simpler books. Because they were written at a time where that was the standard. People didn't write 800-page science fiction novels.
Depends on what it is.
Thinking of like Amber.
Yeah, Amber. Like each of the books of Amber is like not even 120, 150. In this edition anyway. And they're pretty thin and they're fun and they're interesting, but they're not super complicated or heavy.
They kind of can't be. They're so short. They can't have 100 characters that you remember and like super complex magic. I mean,
I wouldn't call Lord of Light a palate cleanser though.
Yeah.
Like Amber, you can
yes.
totally palate
Lord
cleanse
of
with,
Light.
though.
Amber would.
Yeah.
Amber. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's. Yeah. I agree.
Peter, I have not yet read Solnoid. I'm aware of it. I have had other people tell me that I should read it and then I'll probably like it, but I have not yet gotten to it, which is, something that happens a lot with, so many books coming out and all.
Rogue, I fully expect the Wars of Light and Shadow read-along to turn into John Minton is reading it with one friend, maybe. Like, we'll see. It's that kind of thing. Like when Mike did his Malazan read-along, and even he dropped out of it. I will be surprised if it really continues.
Yeah, it's like I did like a Discworld read along, and it's still not finished. We still have like 2 books, like book 40 and book 41, like Raising Steam and what's the last The Shepherd's Crown. Those are still missing. Now I still have to gather the like 3 people that are still sort of in there and like figure out when to finish it, because we got, at that point you're organizing the reading more about like when people have time, and then people have life stuff happening, and that can push stuff back, and we still have to finish that. But that's like, that took like 3 years to get like through 40 fucking Discworld books.
Yeah. Raph,
or 4.
Colton is asking if you and I have a favorite Chronicles of Amber book. It's been a long time. I'm rereading it after not reading it. I mean, I've read it like 4 times at this point, but I think the last time was 10 or 15 years ago. I remember there's particular stuff that gets revealed, like world building and magic stuff, in, I think it's Hand of Oberon, which is the 4th book.
Yeah.
The stuff to do with the Trumps and Dworkin. I really liked all of that stuff a lot. And when the plot at the beginning, like the problem I'm having at the moment, Sign of the Unicorn, there is something obviously going on, but like there's a big evil plot in the background going on, but he's not giving you enough clues to start guessing even what it is.
Yeah.
It takes a while. It takes until sort of the end of Sign of the Unicorn or into Hand of Oberon before you can start going, I think I'm putting that and that together and I understand, So this book is just a whole bunch of the people in the book being paranoid, basically.
Yeah, I think like technically, title wise, I think Guns of Avalon is my favorite title of the series. That's just
of course. Guns of Avalon is an awesome title, but
the book itself is not that good, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like I might just go with Nine Princess in Amber, because the whole build up when you don't know what it is about, and you start with like the more like hard-boiled noir style story, and then it kind of moves from what you think is more like a political kind of thing where someone got maybe almost assassinated and has to figure out what went wrong, and then suddenly the whole thing, like, he pulls that switch on you and suddenly the world is like insane and you're like, holy shit, what have I stumbled into here? But obviously that's something you can only do in the first book, because after that you have established sort of the fundamental rules of the game, and that like big switch you can only pull off once.
Colton, I have not read Mystic River, so I can't tell you anything about it, but The Book Thief blew the back of my head off. It's a heavy book. I mean, you probably know roughly where it's all happening, but it's so good. The Book Thief, for anyone who doesn't know, is told first person from the perspective of Death. And Death is following around a little girl who is stealing books during the Nazi occupation of Poland, I think. I think is she German? I don't remember. But it's a little girl in the middle of the Second World War in a country run by the Nazis, and she's stealing books. And Death, the personified Death, is following her around. And one of the best things that Death says is, "You humans terrify me." It's a really good book. It's a really, really good book.
I haven't read it,
but very
maybe,
emotional and very sad, and there's a lot of really hard stuff going on in it, but it's an excellent book. It's such a good book.
I haven't
Highly
read it.
recommend it.
I haven't read it, and I don't think I will. I think it's more like growing up in Germany and going through the German school system. At some
Yeah,
point, you develop Nazi books, book fatigue, I guess.
yeah, yeah. No, I've talked with a lot of German friends about that, just to get a perspective on it, because like growing up in Australia and America, it's completely alien. But
Yeah.
Germans in sort of my generation to Raf's generation, you just get it driven into you over and over again that kind of Germany's bad and we did all this bad stuff and
Yeah, and
we
I
owe
think
the
that makes
entire
sense.
world. And it does make sense, but it's also on a personal level, it's tiring.
Yes,
I totally understand.
I got to read Anne Frank's diary in school. I got to read a bunch of more like YA stories about Nazi stuff and children having to deal with the Nazi. Thankfully, I did not have to read The Boy in the Striped Pajamas because I think that would probably just make me very, very angry. But I don't think after reading Anne Frank's diary that having like The Book Thief will add much to my understanding of what it is like to be in Nazi-run countries. I don't think that will add much.
And that's, to be honest, in a way, that's not at all what the book's about, right? It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, Anne Frank's diary was real.
Yeah.
The Book Thief is fiction. It's set in a town in Germany during the war, but the thing I found really fascinating was that the two perspectives you're getting. I mean, I think the whole book is told first person from the perspective of Death, which is interesting just by itself. But then the main character that Death is following around is a little girl who is stealing books because she enjoys books, right? And she can't get, she doesn't have the ability to get books any other way. She's stealing books. And just those two things set almost anywhere would probably be kind of interesting. But then the added complication, so to speak, is it's set in somebody down below. Where is it? Yeah, Caro said it's in Germany, in Molching.
I am the thing is, I'm pretty sure I've been either to Molching or to Olching, which is next to Molching, which tells you that Bavaria is not a serious country.
Is there another town nearby called Dolching? And
I wouldn't know, but I've been to one of these places for a heavy metal show when I was on tour with a band, and we were there for a concert. That's all I know about that place. It's on the metro line to Munich, though.
Okay, so not too far away.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how I feel.
Anne Frank was in the Netherlands, although she was born in Germany and fled to the Netherlands at the beginning of the whole Nazi time and then got stuck in the Netherlands, Cale. And Google does actually count her as a German author. If you Google Anne Frank because you're looking for something else, you get like that quick AI kind of summary thing at the top of your Google search, and it calls Anne Frank a German author, which I think is technically true, but also shows you why AI is actually bad at its job.
AI does not get certain things very well. Thornall, the reason I can differentiate between the Amber books, at least at the moment, is I'm reading them one by one and I'm not binging them as Ida says you must. I'm just using them as sort of palate cleansers, sticking them in between chunkier books. And also maybe I read the originals when they were
individual
pinky
books.
Thin paperbacks, and they were individual books with their own individual, actually pretty cool covers.
Okay.
And yeah, they were on my shelf lined up as individual books. So yeah, I know it's kind of basically just Corwin's story and Merlin's story. But I think they are 10 books.
The ones that always sort of blur for me are Sign of the Unicorn and Hand of Oberon. There, I'm always like, where does one end and the other, begin? That's something I can't do off the top of my head. The first one, the second one, Guns of Avalon, and
sort of
obviously, and the final one, Courts of Chaos for the Corwin story. Those are fairly clear, but those two ones, I know where they start and I know where they end, but where they sort of like are split, that one I can never get fully right.
My wife came home early.
Oh, nice.
Hello, wife.
Yeah, she was working.
Rabin just looked it up. It says, I'm assuming this is from the Google AI summary, German diarist.
Okay, so
man.
it's the German version says the Deutsche Autorin. So
Okay.
it doesn't. So apparently, diarist is a term that you only get in English.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, diarist is at least definitely more accurate than author, because author would, include like the intent for to publish.
I think you would only ever call a diarist someone who had only ever written a diary. They weren't an author publishing numerous books. And
yeah, I mean, like, even if you write a diary and then personally decide to publish your diary, that's when I would argue you become an author, because author would include intent to publish. But having your diary posthumously published by someone else, that doesn't make you an author.
Yeah, true. Anita, hello, Slumpy Smurf. How you doing? Good to see you. You can join on screen if you want, Anita. You know where to find the link, I assume.
Hey, Anita.
I had to read The Book Thief. Alicia says she had to read The Book Thief in high school. She was in 9th grade, about 14 years old. I can imagine it being a difficult book when you're that age, because you're closer to the age of the girl in the book, and you would be relating quite a lot with her, I guess. But I don't know. Anita, are you still reading Belly of the Bow? How many months have you been reading that book? It's a KJ Parker.
Oh, okay.
Something. Damn.
They're finally reading the Scavenger trilogy, I think Alan and Anita, or at least Anita was talking about it, which was my first KJ Parker. So I always think of Scavenger as like the thing. And very few people talk about it anymore. Which
I want to read it just from talking to Anita about it, because I am in real life an archer. And it's all about making bows and shooting bows, and gets into all that. Yeah, Belly of the Bow specifically. I mean, yeah.
The Scavenger trilogy has a fantastic setup, which is that this guy's wandering around killing people, and like people decide they think he's a god, and he has no memory. And I love that. I loved it. It needed editing. There were flaws with the book, and it has the KJ Parker ending, which is grim and fatalistic, which is not my thing. But
sure,
for what it is.
I've only ever read a short story by him.
Oh,
I think it's called The Beginner. Anita can correct me.
It's good stuff. There's other good stuff. Yeah,
it was a super short story. Like, it was a really good short story. I was surprised.
I still haven't read any KJ Parker.
Really? Mitch is asking for Zelazny short story novellas.
No idea.
Well, I mean, technically, each of the Amber novels probably counts as a novella now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can look at the Amber novels in two ways. There are either 2 600-page books, or there are 10 novellas.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, the way I'm reading it one by one, they're 120, 150 pages each, and I'm just reading one at a time and then taking a break. So it could be totally something to try, Mitch.
Yeah.
I mean, check out 9 Princes in Amber, which is the first of the books and novella length.
Very much, yeah. I remember, like, when I read The Heart of What Was Lost, which is the sort of like bridge novel between the old The Memory, Sorrow, Thorn one and The Last King of Austin Arden. And that audiobook has like under 10 hours. And I'm like, that's a Ted Williams novella at this point, right?
10 hours is a Ted Williams novella. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
It is, however, an excellent book. I found it really good. He's good on like short distance, I found out, and he has managed to write a series, almost military fantasy, which I was not expecting after Memory, Sorrow, Thorn, but this one hits very differently. So I'm excited to find out what he does with the second series, I guess.
I've gone through a little process with Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. First of all, for, I don't know, 20 years, 30 years, I've known it as a fantasy series I should read that I haven't read. And a few months ago, I started it and I really dove into it. So I was like reading a lot every day, and I was reading nothing else. And I read Dragonboat Chair, and I read Stone of Farewell pretty quickly. And then I got about quarter of the way into the first book of To Green Angel Tower. And I was like, oh. And I just sort of, it felt like I was, all of a sudden I was like wading in mud or something. I don't know. I couldn't maintain the slow Tad Williams pace anymore. I needed a break. And it wasn't a DNF. I was just like, I can't do this anymore right now. I will definitely come back to it. Overall, I've enjoyed it, but I just want something a little more peppy. So when the read along, which Josh is hosting, when the read along gets up to Green Angel Tower, I will join at the point where I stopped.
I think for me, they're autumn books. Like I did like my reread last year in autumn, like October-ish, and it was raining outside. I was drinking lots of tea and eating early Christmas cookies and making up plans for my next tabletop role-playing games campaign. And it was the perfect read for that.
Yeah, no, that sounds extremely suitable as far as external conditions.
But yeah, I can see how it can be very slow and sloggy in other situations. At that point, I had time. I was like, yeah, this is perfect right now. It's like
Vera and Daniel, just in case we were to have that argument, it's obvious. It's my fucking pub. Anyway, yeah, no, it's. I think all of us on screen and in the chat are kings, except those of us that are queens. Gender. I
try not to be royalty.
You try not to be royalty. Do you actually have to try?
I don't know. I think it takes effort to constantly resist being set apart from the rest. I want to,
I identify as the jester.
I have absolutely no trouble without any effort not being royalty.
It's like one of the things I really love.
So unroyal.
Yeah, one of the things I really loved about the Redwall books that I'm currently reading is that they have the Guzim, which is the guerrilla union of shrews in Mossflower, and I love the idea that there is a union of guerrilla shrews, which are constantly arguing about everything, and they have like a black stone, and the holder of the black stone is the person who's allowed to speak before they vote, and having spent a lot of time in different alternative left-wing culture centers and other organizations, I just love the fact that Brian Jakes put that in the children's books he wrote in the 1980s. And I'm like, you get it, man.
Here's your obligatory Fitz appearance. She hates this. She hates this. I have to hold on to her really tightly so that she doesn't shred my face. Isn't that right? Yeah. She's not much of a pick-me-up kind of cat. But she is a sweetie. Now she's twitching her tail like she'd like to kill me.
Yeah. Also, Thornall, yes, I hope you get to the Illuminatus trilogy. It is such a fun book. Like a trilogy of really fun books that have a lot of very interesting things. Also, like 6 different people that all have killed JFK, which is really interesting.
See,
I think I read it too young.
The two of those together, like I had a period where I was reading all of the conspiracy novels. So I read Illuminatus and I read various Thomas Pynchon and so on. And Gravity's Rainbow, I ended up feeling like, fuck you, Thomas Pynchon. And Illuminatus, I thought was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Yeah. Yeah. Daniel fetched a sword from a lake out yonder. I've got 2 right here. I can go get them for you if you want. No, I won't because it's complicated hanging them back up.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how Pynchon is very pretentious in a lot of ways, and I personally like that because I'm a pretentious motherfucker.
No shit.
Pynchon is the kind of book that is the kind of writer that makes me feel incredibly smart and also incredibly angry at him for making these really dumb jokes in the middle of his like super smartness, like in what's it, Against the Day, where he has that whole like thing this sort of like Pythagorean cult in London of all these snobs, and they're called the true worshippers of the ineffable tetrahedron, or TWIT for short. And and they have this, and he describes how they greet each other, and they have this greeting where they take their palms and they spread their fingers out with a break between the middle finger and the ring finger and the thumb and the index finger, and they say this long Latin thing which translates into "live long and prosper." And I'm like, you massive dickhead.
So Thomas Pynchon was also basically just a smart nerd.
You have to be a smart nerd to write books like that. That's definitely part of it. And I do like those kind of books. The same way I would like Umberto Eco, right?
Kale, I've never on the Sunday Pub said the C word, and you're an Australian, so you should understand how difficult that is for me. That nothing I've said ever on the Sunday Pub counts as swearing for Australians. So either you're a pussy, or you can just let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. I'm kidding. He knows I'm kidding because he's Australian. Jerome didn't finish Crying of Lot 49. I finished Crying of Lot 49. In fact, I think I read it twice, but it was a long time ago. But yeah, it's I
did enjoy Crying of Lot 49.
Bad done well. I think this is the first time here, or at least the first time actually making a comment. Just I'd sort of licked her, love your spoiler talks. Yeah, we had a great time doing those talks. Philip and me, and I'm forgetting his name right now, not a booktuber, friend of Philip's. He's doing his doctor work, his PhD on Gene Wolfe. We had some spoiler talks as we read the thing, the individual books together. We did four spoiler talks, and they were a lot of fun.
Yeah,
those were books like Gene Wolfe. I've talked to people like Tori. Tori always says this: Gene Wolfe makes her feel stupid, and I'm like, yeah, sure, okay, fine, but maybe just because I've read other authors that make me feel more stupid, Gene Wolfe makes me feel smart, or maybe I understand enough of what Gene Wolfe is doing that I don't feel stupid, but I don't understand enough Thomas Pynchon by far. So,
but I think like the main thing with both authors, and to a certain point also Malazan, because the people that are influenced by like postmodernism and post-structuralism in a lot of ways, right? The main thing is, and that's kind of hard for a lot of fantasy readers that come from, say, Brandon Sanderson or whatever, right? Is the idea that you have to understand every single thing in a book to understand the book, and that's kind of the main thing. You don't have to understand anything that Gene Wolfe does in the background with all his references and shit. You can just like follow along with Severian and enjoy him doing all the dumb shit he does, and that's a valid reading of that book. And I feel
if you don't understand enough of Thomas Pynchon, you just don't get what's going on.
Yeah, that's true. Pynchon is harder in that regard, but you don't have to understand everything that Pynchon does. But there is so much obscure weird shit going on in there. You constantly feel like you're missing something if you don't get it. Yeah, it's one of those things. I recently read a bunch of essays and lectures by Umberto Eco, and I may have said this before. He has this idea. He calls it he compares texts to a forest. And he's like, it's the fictional wood, right? So you have different paths through the wood, and all of these are, legitimate paths. There's like a straight one. If you just want to follow the plot, that's like you go into the wood, you come out of the other side. And there's other parts that go to like different scenic parts of the wood. And you can take one of those and look at those bits and enjoy them, and then you come out. And all of those are valid ways of going through that specific wood. And I like that as an image for how we read books, because all of these are valid readings of the text, and you don't have to feel bad if you did not take all of those routes at once, because that's not how that works.
Well, this is what happens with books, right? We can read them on with different levels of reflectivity, right? Yeah. We can reflect and analyze as we go or not. And I think one of the things is, I love the expression, this book made me think, because to me, what that means is, and I don't think people always use it this way. A lot of times what they want to say is this book rewarded me thinking about it, right? There was depth to the book that rewarded further thought. But when they say made me think, to me, what it implies is that somehow the surface level reading, the direct path through the woods, wasn't very good. It made you think because without reflection, it wasn't enjoyable.
I think a lot of the time when someone says it made me think, it is often meant kind of derogatory, and it's meant in that way because I wanted to just be entertained.
Yeah.
But this damn book bent my arm and made me think.
Made me think.
You know, it felt
But
like
it's very, because I've seen, you know, as I read a lot of reviews as a writer, and people will often talk about, you know, this, you know, didn't have to think to read this book, and it's like, well, you didn't have to, but maybe you should have. You know, like the implication being it's like a beach read, and I find these descriptors really interesting.
It's one of those things I've come around on that over the years, right? When I was like more edgy than I'm now, I was always like, yes, those times existed. I know it's hard to imagine, but yeah,
more edgy. Okay.
I felt I was always looked down on people who wanted to have like simple books or whatever, and I still struggle with people enjoying cozy fantasy because it feels like those books will drive me. I will never read Legends and Lattes, no matter how good it is, because that book would drive me fucking crazy. But that's me, and I understand the more I've spent
you do things like create a project for yourself where you have to read 20 books about Mormonism. You're different than most people I've ever talked to about books, Raph.
I mean, that's another thing, but like that's a different thing. That's like more like how I approach like YouTube things, right? But
no, but it says a lot about like even YouTube things. I don't know YouTube people that do that either. Like it says a lot about you and the way you think and the way you read.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not derogatory. I'm not putting you down. I'm actually kind of in awe of it. But it's just totally not the way I work.
Yeah, but the thing I've learned with like cozy fantasy in particular, and those kind of books in a lot of ways, is like the more I talk with people online, especially people.
Actually, wait just a sec, Raph. Yeah. Bad Done Well. Could you please stop putting spoilers in your comments? It probably doesn't really matter to anyone, but you have just blown some of the, and I can't delete your messages. You've just blown some of the big mysteries of Book of the New Sun, and it would be really cool if you didn't do that in the comments, please. You just did it again. Please stop it. Please stop it.
Yeah, that would probably be a good idea. So my thing is like, especially that the more I move towards more like queer and marginalized spaces and so forth, and hang out with those kind of people more than I do by the virtue of being blind. The more I understand how much, and the more I reflect on that and don't just like play all my toxic masculinity over it all the time, right? The more I understand that if you are like faced with adversity every single fucking day, all the time, just by mere existence, and that can be all kinds of places that you are in, like maybe you actually need something that actually actively excludes anything confrontative from your experience for just like a couple of hours. And I respect that. I understand it's like, it's not for me, but I understand where that comes from. And that's
it's like just sitting on the beach and relaxing and not doing anything. It's like,
it's literally the entire romance industry, the romance novel industry, right? The whole point is they have to be formulated to the point where you're not stressed reading them because it's going to have a happy ending. And that literally it's part of the genre.
Yeah, see, and I see that, and I understand where that comes from. And my first reaction is like, so let's fix the fucking world so people can actually enjoy interesting books and don't have to go for this thing just to have like one moment of peace. Maybe we should fix the world. But that's me, and that's why I don't sit on beaches, I guess.
I wanna ask on a different track. Brian, is the gallant? You said to read it before Wars, Light, and Shadow. Is it actually related? Does it have anything to do with it, or is it just an interesting book? I mean, 100 pages is like I'll sit down and read it in an afternoon, but I'm curious whether it's actually related. If it's related, is it chronologically before Curse of the Mithraith? Is it a good idea to then read it before, or does it matter at all? And my favorite Kiwi, Gary's here.
How are you guys?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I'm hot. It's hot and muggy and it's uncomfortable.
That's what you get for living on the wrong end of this fucking ball.
I know.
You want to come here, Jerry? I'll switch with you. It's 0 degrees here.
No. No, hey, I live in God's own, literally, and
Yes, you do.
so I can complain occasionally. That's fine. Most
Yeah.
people would sell important parts of their anatomy to live here. So, seriously, Joe.
Yeah, I used to
Do I
live in
smell?
Sydney. I used to live in Sydney, and Sydney is like my idea of paradise. And when I was there, I used to always complain about how hot and humid it was. And
Yeah.
now that I'm here, I would if somebody could take my arm if I could just be in Sydney.
Yeah. So I'm looking at how shiny I am, and I'm like, I've literally only been out of bed half an hour, and I'm already in this sort of state of almost breaking out in sweat. It's just
We had snow. We had snow on the ground for Christmas. It was kind of nice. I'm moving. I'm a
That's how
little
it's
bit north.
supposed to be.
I'm a little north of where I was, so just far enough that we get more snow on the ground, like just by a little bit, but not. So it
you
was
get
kind of
a
nice to have a
real
white Christmas.
experience.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have snow because it didn't. It was very clear and blue skies, but it was freezing. Like I was out riding through the forest like the last couple days, and there was like all like the puddles and stuff were like completely frozen, which is not good if you have a horse that has like horse
No.
because iron on ice is really bad.
Just quickly, Bad Done Well. I'm sorry I scolded you. To be honest, I personally don't care about spoilers.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about spoilers at all. But I am hosting a thing for currently 40 people, and I know that some of them probably want to read the book and probably despise spoilers. And you
So at the end of the crying game, and then by the way, in the Sixth Sense,
Joe, shut up. Actually, I used to have a T-shirt. That had all of these little little
you
images.
were a walking spoiler.
It had all these little images and little bubbles. It had like a Darth Vader head, and it said, "Luke, I'm your father." And then it had a little kid, and it said, "I can see dead people." And it was just like it was.
But what did it have for the crying game? What did it have for the crying game? Now I want to know what that image was on your shirt that you wore around town.
I'm not sure that it had the crying game on it. But anyway, what I was going to say.
Did it have this dude saying, "I'll be back after 3 days"?
Wait a sec. Bad Done Well. I personally don't care that much about spoilers. Other people do. So in honor of them, I try and avoid spoilers on here. And the things you were saying were a mix of spoilers and your guesses. Right. And of course, your guesses aren't necessarily spoilers unless you explain everything that made you guess that, which you were. Those count as spoilers. So just assume that nobody else on here, because like I said, it's a number of people, just assume that everybody else here has not read the book, wants to one day read it, and hates spoilers. So it's good to avoid them.
I gotta go, guys.
If you
Take care. Nice to talk to everybody.
Right, see you around, Joe.
See you, Joe.
See ya. But Bad Done Well, if you have already watched all of Matt's wonderful conversations with Philip and so forth on the Book of the New Sun, I have videos on each of those with a lot of also like additional like theories and interpretation stuff on my channel somewhere, which are not as long and not as detailed as those conversations, but they might add a thing or two there, here and there, because they're certainly more angry usually.
Definitely.
Anything you do is more angry than anything I do. Yeah.
If you read something and you go, "Oh, I would love to hear somebody's thoughts on this," check Raf's channel because he has read incredibly widely and probably has thoughts.
if you see a video on my channel and you think it's interesting but not angry enough, check Raf's channel. He's probably read it, and his video will definitely be angrier.
I'm surprisingly
But it will be well researched, it will be well thought out, and there will be absolutely valid reasons for his anger, even if I disagree with him a lot.
Absolutely.
That's fine. I like disagreeing. That's why I give reasons for my thoughts. I have been remarkably happy.
I like Legends of Latex. I'm sorry, Raf.
I have been surprisingly happy with Redwall.
I liked Legends and Lattes, but yeah,
you're enjoying Redwall.
I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's actually really good for like children's books written in the 80s.
Did you have the Brian Lee Durfee problem with it?
No, I've watched his videos, and they explain why I'm really bad at BookTube, because everyone holds up his videos as some of the best and most entertaining BookTube videos, and I've watched them
Wait.
I don't get it.
Not necessarily the best. Right?
But
The best and most entertaining. Yeah, best and most entertaining are different things.
Yeah,
right?
like
I wouldn't call any of his
entertaining.
videos the best video about that book, but many of his videos are the most entertaining video about that.
Yeah,
book.
that's the thing. Is like I don't get the humor. I don't see why this is funny after like 2 minutes. It's like, yeah, he focuses on the size thing, and I get it. If you are the kind of reader that focuses on that specific aspect of world building, I can see that being a thing. And then you can take 15 minutes out of your life talking about how you're not getting that. And I'm like, yeah, that was funny for like 2 minutes. So why is everyone watching this again and again? And I don't get it. That's me being somewhat weird.
To explain at least part of it, a lot of Durfee's humor is visual.
Yeah.
Right? Like
And
watching his
every
facial
day.
expressions and watching him thrash around
Yeah.
and drop his camera and whatever. Those are funny things that you can't see. Just listening to him, I'm not sure I would find it funny either.
No.
So
But
maybe
it is only
that
a few
explains
minutes
some of it.
every few days. Like you're not over.
I don't watch all of his videos, and I don't watch every day one of his videos. But just recently, because you were reading Redwall, I think after the pub last time, somebody posted on the fireside and said, "Oh, has everyone seen Durfee's video?"
Yeah.
And I went and watched it, and I did laugh.
Maybe you're right that like a large part is the visual component, which kind of fails for me. And like the thing is, like I'm really positively enjoying them. They're really good children's books in the way that they are not dumbed down in any way, and that's like a huge thing, right? That's like the first thing that I really enjoyed about them. The next thing is like I've said this somewhere in one of the videos. Like I think Redwall has a larger vocabulary than Mistborn, which is not actively me being mean about Brandon Sanderson. Brian Jakes uses words that Brandon Sanderson would never touch because he's afraid to use complicated words like undulating.
So what you're saying to me, Raf, is that this is a children's story that readers of the Tiffany Aching stories would like.
I think you might very much enjoy them if you're into a lot of furry animals using lots of medieval weaponry to kill each other.
Sounds good.
Also, and like one of the things that I found really nice about it is like from the beginning onwards, it does not have very strict gender roles. There's a lot of like female warriors going on doing stuff. And there's like and men being cooks and stuff. Of course. Like Marielle of Redwall is the story of a young female mouse who decides to go on a vengeance quest to kill the pirate king because the pirate king has abducted her father and so forth, and that's the story. And she goes and she does the thing.
I like it a lot. I actually now will consider reading Redwall soon, which I would not have previously said to anybody.
They have some incredibly 80s sounding audiobooks which are just beautiful because they're read and narrated by Brian Jakes. And
so he knows what he's trying to achieve.
And
he
was born in 1939 and he has what I would call theatrical English accent.
Nice. And he's also used to being asked to perform story. This will be somebody who, as a part of his existence, it would have been his to tell a story. Entertain us, Brian.
Actually, that's kind of the origin story of Redwall, is that his job was to read books to children at a school for the blind. And then he wasn't happy with the books he had to read, so he decided to write his own, and that's where Redwall comes from.
Perfect.
After seeing Durfee's video, I was watching Durfee's video and I thought, I don't know if I can read Redwall, because exactly the kind of things that he was getting hung up on would be something I would get hung up on. Like, I haven't read the book, so I don't know if it's as weird as he was describing it. But the idea of having animal characters and they're in an abbey, but you're not sure if they're little tiny mice in the corner of the abbey or if the abbey is built mouse size or if they're human sized mice and the abbey is human size.
So
And
scale
then-
is not clarified.
Well, the main thing he was really getting hung up on, the thing that seemed to throw the whole scale thing into confusion, is there's a rat character who's a bad guy, and he has an army of 50 rats that are in a cart. One cart.
Yes.
So or 500 rats. And a cart, human size, could easily have 500 rats in it.
Yes.
But a cart scaled down to rat size could not.
But that's the thing, it's drawn by one horse. And so why is he confused about that? It's one horse drawing one cart that has 500. It's very clear that's a human-sized cart. And that's like the one time in the entire series that something like that comes up. After that, size is like every animal has the right size. So the Abbey is mouse-sized.
So the Abbey is mouse-sized, and there are no humans in the whole book.
There are no humans in the entire world. Yes.
So where did a human scale horse and cart come from?
I think the way you could do that, if you are focused on having like coherent world building, which why would you for children's books, right?
That's right. It's imagination. Go with
that's the Brandon Sanderson thing striking again, where everyone wants their world to be completely fully worked out and fleshed out. So you could argue that what is happening is that Mossflower Country is somewhere where humans have not yet come, and Clooney the Scourge, with his rats, being a sea rat, has come ashore in some human town with his fellow sea rats, and he's a pirate. He has an eye patch and everything, right? And has abducted that one that one hay cart that is standing in that human town, and it's very clear that no one is steering that horse. That's made clear in the story, right? They just
even as a
it's
kid,
a tank rolling into.
Even as a kid, this would have driven me crazy, because I was the kid that got kicked out of Bible school when I was 6 years old, because I was asking questions and expecting a logical answer from the lady, and she just couldn't deal with it. So she just asked my grandmother not to bring me anymore.
That's kind of the logical conclusion, because you start by the horse cart being almost out of control because the horse is panicked because it's in front of a cart full of rats, and that's and it's made clear that Clooney doesn't care where the whole cart is going. He just wants to go somewhere. So you can ideally that cart is coming from a human settlement. It's going into fucking nowhere.
We're talking about Redwall. We're talking about Redwall.
Matt,
it doesn't make any sense.
Glad to be here. Also, I gotta say something.
Pippi Longstocking, freaking fabulous. Loved Pippi Longstocking when I was little.
Oh yeah, Pippi Longstocking's the shit.
But Matt, I need to tell you, your shirt. I like it. It's a good shirt.
It's unfortunately it's a rip-off shirt.
Your opinion has been acknowledged.
Which is from Red Balloon, and Red Balloon's printing is garbage. So I washed it.
A lot of art too.
Every time I washed it, it just sort of starts wearing out more and more. I'd actually like to. The problem you have if you don't live in America is so much stuff is produced in America. There are probably official Dark Horse Hellboy t-shirts.
They're expensive.
But they're in America. They're expensive. Well, they're expensive, and then it'll cost about as much as the shirt to send it to Germany. So yeah. If anyone in America wants to send me a 2XL Hellboy t-shirt, I feel free. That would be great. But yeah, until then, I'll just be using rip-off ones. They had one. Has anyone read Saga, the comic?
I will something. No, that's Fable.
Everybody in the chat, put up your hand if you've read Saga. Saga has this awesome thing in it called Lying Cat. One of the characters is it looks like one of those hairless cats.
Yeah, like it's kind of like a leopard.
It's as big as a leopard. And it wears an extremely ornate jewelry color, and it can speak, but all it can say is the word lying, and it can tell with absolute certainty if someone is lying, and every time someone is lying, it says lying.
Okay, that's really cool. But
it's actually super cool. So it just walks around and it's totally silent for like 3 pages, and then someone says something, and Lying Cat pops up and says lying. And that's it.
I was about to say, I hope everyone knows who Lying Cat is. He's like in the first couple he shows up pretty early on.
Yeah, Lying Cat is awesome. And Redbubble had a Lying Cat t-shirt, which was just like the full body of Lying Cat with a speech bubble that said lying. And of course I had to order it, and I washed it once. and almost all of the print came off.
Oh,
So
nasty.
I got a refund for it, but yeah.
All right, I'm gonna get myself a beer so I can start Brian's BookTube's on Sunday if he's still around. One thing, like one final Redwall thing. My favorite quote from yesterday: "If brains were bees, there'd be no honey between your ears," which is a really cool
I
insult.
like it. I like that a lot. Oh,
Yeah, it's a very inventive kind of insult, and I'm very fond of it.
yeah, because you have to be clever enough to understand bees to get it.
Yeah,
Which
it's good.
sounds really obvious, but not everybody will.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna do that.
yeah. I mean,
And now everybody in the chat who put up their hands and said they read Saga, have you continued reading Saga? Because Saga is a weird comic story where they did a whole bunch of issues, and then the two creators took a break for 3 years, I think, and it just didn't put it out anymore. And everybody was like, okay, Saga's dead. Saga's dead. No one's like, Saga's not going to continue. And then they came back earlier this year. They came back and they've been doing an issue irregularly, not every month, but they've been doing issues again. And I've got them on subscription. So Saga is cool. The comeback Saga is so far not as cool as the original Saga was, but yeah. Anyway, Thornall's up to date. Congratulations, my man.
I am also up to date. It took me a while, but I got there.
Yeah, he does.
Okay,
he does look like a
No,
Sphinx
that
cat,
helps.
but he is turquoise green.
That absolutely helps.
He kind of does look like a giant scrotum. He's just a turquoise green
don't.
giant scrotum. Kind of.
Seriously,
No,
those
he's not as wrinkly.
are the ugliest thing.
He's not as wrinkly as a Sphinx, but and he is sort of turquoise green. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and I love
funny.
cats, don't get me wrong, but those hairless cats?
Yes, Alicia, Saga is awesome. It is one of my favorite. I've got the hardbound, like the pre-break period of Saga is in 3 hardbound omnibuses, omnibuy, and it's really, really good.
Good to know. I need to stop reading after volume 3.
Humor is not for you. Yeah, okay, that's fine.
Humor is always so super subjective.
Yeah.
Speaking of humor, Derry, for Christmas, I got guards in the mail.
Yes!
So
this
I
makes
don't know.
me happy. This will also make Raph happy.
What makes me happy?
Well, I already told Raph, but yeah, I got guards in the mail for Christmas.
That's pretty neat.
That's happy.
Even
Makes
though
me
you can't see it, but you know.
Peter is on a mission to collect all the merch at
Yes.
Discworld Emporium. I want the City Watch T-shirt.
Gorgeous.
I want the City Watch T-shirt. I'm actually going to order that before long.
So I was skimming through guards, and it's like, this is where the dragons went. They lie. I'm like, okay, Terry, I see you cooking. Gets me all excited now.
Yeah.
Well, it is about dragons.
It is.
Yeah.
Sort of.
And the power of the people.
Because perhaps the word we are looking for is angry.
Yeah.
Yep.
I just love it. I love it. I love that more people now are aware of the anger in Discworld, because everybody now is like, yes, I see it.
Usually
Have
comedy
you-
comes from anger.
Have you already started, Britain, on Gardens of the Moon?
No,
You
not
just held
yet.
it up.
But
Okay.
I do have
It's your
it though.
next- yeah.
So,
Very good.
yeah.
Well,
It's the airport version, as I like to call these kind of books. It's really small, but yeah, what you can do.
It's
you're walking the
just
walk.
a
Go on
it's
now.
just a mass market paperback like the one I've got.
Yeah, it's kind of like my Loch Lamora books. They're all really small.
Oh, those I've got in trade.
Oh, really? Yeah.
This is, I tell you what, this, if anything, proves how much publishing has changed, that a mass market paperback is the oddity for Britain. Because, lost Matt briefly. Okay.
Yeah, no, I turned off my camera to try and make it reset because it was running really slowly and frozen. Now it seems to be okay. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, because trades are just taken over.
Shirt. But no, yeah, I got those books. I got some other books, but I mean, Raph might be interested, though. I did tell him I got Blood in the Mist, but unfortunately,
It's
the
so
font
good.
is really, really small. So
Oh, really?
I
Yeah.
want to
Get the
read that as
magnifying
well.
glass
I'll
out.
show you my copy. Give me a sec.
I've got it on my shelf.
It's such a good
Lovely
book.
little edition.
Yeah,
That.
they pop up 9 times out of 10. That's one of
Oh,
my
wow.
favorite
Okay.
things.
That, yeah.
Oh my
Oh, wow.
goodness. Okay, it's
That
ant
is pretty
writing.
small.
Yeah. That's okay. You can go online from Temu and get like an A4 sized magnifying glass
I
and
mean,
you just put over
I
the
really
page.
appreciate getting this, but I'm like, oh man, there was this really beautiful copy I saw on Amazon. I kind of wish you had.
It was $78. Yeah.
No. That's but like Blood in the Mist is a really good book. I wish more people would read it, and I know some more people have read it over the last year or so. But
Yeah.
it's so good, and it's such an sort of like influential book that a lot of people are not necessarily aware about. Like, you know, it has impacted both a lot of like Neil Gaiman's writings, especially Stardust, and it has had a huge impact on was it Mr. Strange and Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and
Susanna Clark. Yeah.
yeah, very huge impact on Susanna Clark, including the whole like man with the thistledown hair, which I think comes up in both books, explicitly named that in Blood in the Mist as well, and it's just like really, really cool. And it has a bit of like a King of Elfland's Daughter vibe to it as well, but it also has
Which I
more.
also need to read.
That's another really good one. What Blood in the Mist has is a bit more of a sort of like sarcastic look at both like class, but also very much on gender roles and that kind of stuff. I mean,
Right.
Hope
Quite
Merleys
like
was
the-
friends with Virginia Woolf.
Ah, well, there you go.
Right.
Really had a similar window on the world, perhaps.
Colton, start Terra Ignota. You won't regret it. Terra Ignota is awesome. Too Like the Lightning. I also just love the titles. I mean, they're all quotes from Shakespeare, but
Yeah.
a lot of so many book titles these days, even of really, really good books, are just boring.
Yeah.
Like actually,
Hello,
Robin Hobb. Robin Hobb.
fan. She's the worst at
I wish
naming
Hobb could
books.
name her books, but
Like,
all of her
the
books
worst,
are
but they're
assassins
appropriate.
something, fools something, something fool, something assassin.
Yeah. And yet,
Assassins
by the time
assassin.
you've read each
Assassin.
book, you can
I was
think
going to
about
make a
what the
joke and
title
say
means.
Fool's Assassin, and then I realized no, that actually exists.
That
That's
actually
Is
is
one
one of them. The only joke you can make is assassin's assassin or fool's fool, you know. But it really
Shit
is
fools, there you
assassin's
go.
fool and fool's assassin, you know. It like her books are so dumb as far as
The
titles go.
The
Awesome
titles
books,
are
but
terrible and
horrible titles.
massively misleading for people who haven't read them.
Yeah,
Because,
exactly.
you know, the first book, Assassin's Apprentice, it sounds like this adventurous sort of going out and stabby killing montage.
It sounds
the Man
dark
in
and
Black
edgy,
thing. Awesome.
and it's not
And it's
adventure
the
action
coming of
edgy
age.
at all, you know.
Yeah.
Not even a little bit. Hi, Mac. You're late.
Hello. Oh, there's new figures
Yeah.
available. Oh, there's a Sybil.
Yeah, yeah, I saw those. I was actually, I'm not even that big a Discworld fan, but when I looked for the first time, I looked on Discworld Emporium,
Oh,
and
stock
I
is just
saw
awesome.
the turtle, the bronze
Yep,
turtle with
actually.
the elephants with the like
Oh,
that one. I was like, oh my god, I want that. That looks
I
so
know, and
cool.
the quality on them is so high, which is
Oh, yeah,
why
you can
Discworld
tell.
Emporium is where you go, because that's the one place that Terry was mates visited. They had a real relationship about what are we going to put out next, and so the quality of everything that comes out of there is insane. So good. I've got like 4 plushies, and they're just beautiful, high-end toys that are ornaments in my case. But you know,
Song for Arbonne is the one Gabriel K that I would have to read next. I actually started it, and then I came to that large like dick sucking scene, and I was like, I don't know, man, I don't feel it right now. No,
it would work better if he was better at horny scenes.
It's not about being horny. It's so there's numerous layers to this, right? So it is sort of based on the Albigensian Crusade kind of era of France, right? With like Provence being sort of like the free, and all the troubadours are there, and it's really cool. And you have like northern France around Paris, which is all the bad guys who then use the idea of Cathars as an excuse to go there and take over the country. Sort of roughly. That's like the mainstream narrative of how that works, unless you believe that Cathars are actually, a thing, which they may have not been. And to drive that point home, we have a scene in that Northern King's hall where he is basically just like lording it over everyone, and to demonstrate his power, he has the wife of one of his vassals kneel under the table sucking his dick and then sending her to someone else. And I'm like, sorry guy, you're laying it on a big thick here, right? I know what you're doing, but it's a bit too much.
Scream, bleed, die, rot. By the way, I'll have you know that Britain, down the bottom, wave Britain.
Hello.
Britain is 12 years old. He's not old and grey like us. I'm old and grey. Derry is young and slightly grey.
I'm grey. I'm going grey.
Raph is not grey at all, as far as I can tell.
No, he's not. He's got an impressive head of hair, his Raph.
And Britain is not 12. I was just joking.
No, he's at least 17.
Well, I'm flattered you think that.
14. 14.
That's I feel the same way, Darko, because I'm sitting here, I'm just reading my phone, and then Raph just starts talking about dick sucking. I'm like,
Darko, you arrived just in time.
Okay.
It's gay sex hour at the Sunday pub, apparently.
So what is it like? So is it like a power move or something in the book? Like what is the context for this?
I haven't read the book, so I don't know. Raph?
No, I haven't read.
I think Raph is listening to text.
I was trying to keep up with chat. What was your question, Bridgen?
What was the
what
context
the fuck?
to this fellatio scene you were talking about?
It's a scene in a Song for Arbonne, and it's made to explain sort of the way one of the kings is running his sort of like court and so forth. It's him doing a power play, and I found it a bit too on the nose, although nose is probably not the organ I should be talking about here. And that's what it's like. I don't mind explicit sex in books. I know some people don't like that, and I'm totally fine with that. I don't mind it. I felt in this case it was we have like humiliation, and it just went on too long for my. It's like, even if you feel you have to put that scene in there to show what much of a bad dude he is, one paragraph would have done it. It doesn't have to be like 5 pages.
That's why I said Gigi was not necessarily a strong writer of such scenes, because I do read a lot of
smut,
spicier things. Yes, smut. I'll be honest, I read a lot of smut, and there are authors who can totally do that.
This is known.
You're okay to read it for that long. Other authors, you're like, oh, could you just stop? It's a skill like anything else. Like some people can do poetry. Not everyone can do poetry. Not everyone can do smut.
And I mean, to be fair, it is not supposed to be smut. This scene is not supposed to be erotic in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. It's just like.
Wait a sec. Everybody clean up what you're saying. Anita's here.
Oh, Anita, okay. Put my behaviour hat on. Okay.
So I think, to put it mildly, I think it fails at balancing between getting its point across and becoming gratuitous. And that's where I think it fails, because it becomes gratuitous in the length.
Sorry, Peter. Sorry. Yes.
Fonda Lee does sex really well, apparently. Darko has had sex with Fonda Lee. I didn't realize.
Good to know.
I didn't think you swung that way, Darko.
Oh,
I think China Mieville writes sex very well. Or at least I thought he did in the books I read.
Trying to remember.
Most fantasy authors aren't great at it.
Joe Abercrombie, I think, or at least I have fun reading his sex scenes because they're actually like, they capture how uncomfortable it can be at times.
Yes, I must admit, I did enjoy the few that I got.
Anita, now that you're here.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
Who writes your favorite sex scenes?
I I don't want to contribute to this topic,
I,
but
I know. That's why I asked
I,
you.
Oh, I
I
love
mean,
that for you so much.
if I had
Ah,
known this is the topic it's going on, I would have joined little late actually. But anyway, I'm
fair enough.
already here.
No,
I don't.
we can totally move on.
No, it's
We
okay.
can move on.
Typhon set. You're just proving that you haven't read Hellboy.
That's right.
He's definitely not gay. Absolutely not. Anyway,
A lot of books are actually moving more toward the whole gender isn't as important as it used to be. And I like that. I do like that. I like that a lot. The art living in Wellington helps. It's a very young community in Wellington. It's a university town. There's a lot of young people, and it's almost odd now to hear gender being discussed as a thing, because the what's the word? Like the baseline in Wellington is very, very, very fluid.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
It is. It's lovely.
Yeah. One quick thing, Aslan. Yes, there is a lot of discussion in like medieval history about like how much the Cathars as an organized thing or as an organization were a thing, and yes, that doesn't mean that there wasn't a crusade against them, but you don't need to actually have a organized enemy to have that. But anything beyond that would definitely go beyond the scope of us actually talking not about sex scenes.
Yeah.
But yes, there is a discussion about that.
And Rick the Reader, oh my God, it just haunts me. Haunts me. Florida Trees reading Daenerys' scenes. Oh God.
a narrator can make or ruin a book.
You know,
Having said that, I mean, for especially the first couple of books when Boy was quite a bit younger, they were great. You know, in terms of it gave you the vibe you were reading something big, epic, intense. It's only as the books continued and you realise that never once does he repeat the same pronunciation of a word that it starts to really get unsettling. And yeah, it gets really hard to hide old man sound in his voice. And yeah, so while I have nostalgia for the audio of Song of Ice and Fire, I tend not to listen to it very much anymore. There's a couple of people on YouTube who do their own readings, and they're really good. So it's worth looking for.
I mean, how do you guys remember so much? I don't reading any sex scenes from books. Did I turn off my brain?
I don't know.
Sounds like
You were
it.
traumatized, Anita. You cut them out.
I mean, I don't remember that many sex scenes. That one just like annoyed me so much that I stopped reading the book for now. So that's why it's in my brain.
Anita, you've read Joe Abercrombie, right?
Oh yes, I remember now. Okay,
I remember now.
There you go.
Two others
Runners
I remember.
trauma.
Two others I remember. I think Fondali is definitely good, but Joe Abercrombie. At least I read only first trilogy, and it was weird.
Oh, you didn't
In my
like it?
opinion,
Or
it's
just
not
don't?
the best. Actually, it was weird.
Okay.
I think
I
like,
like Faith.
sex scenes need to make sense within the story, and
Yes.
like humor, they are so super fucking personal that it's very difficult for them to land for like more than like maybe 1% of your readership. It's just like it's not gonna
Very
work.
subjective.
Yeah,
More
but-
more often than not,
You have
when
to know
I've read
your
a
audience.
sex scene, more often than not, when I've read a sex scene in fantasy books or in science fiction, actually, it usually comes across as the author felt like writing a sex scene because whatever, not that it felt like it naturally flowed and belonged in the story.
Yeah.
You know,
I will
like
say,
By the
very
way,
few times Robin Hobb got intimate was beautifully done. In
yeah,
that it was-
that's true.
it
That's
was,
true.
It was more about
There
a vague sense of
in live ships
experience
there
than-
are a couple of sex scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
In
But there's
live
also one
ships.
right early in Royal Assassin.
I think Fool's Assassin. Yeah, Fool's Assassin. At
Yeah.
least I remember. Yeah, that is good. Actually, I mean, I'm okay with it. But the most weirdest sex scene I read was from what is that book? N.K. Jemison's Inheritance Trilogy, Book 1, 100,000 Kingdoms.
100,000 Kingdoms. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, she definitely walked the line of consent. I'm still not like not sure
yes.
how
And
comfortable I'm with
I
that.
kind of appreciate when that happens because it does make a reader wonder. And I like that. Again, living in such a youthful community, there's a massive thing around consent, and it's very much the only consent is enthusiasm. And I'm like, oh my God, that's perfect.
Yeah. I
Like,
mean, it
seriously.
kind of
Oh,
it really depends on what you're trying to do with the sex scene. Like, for example, Richard K. Morgan has very much like had some incredibly annoying
right back.
sex scenes that go way too long, and then he has had
yes.
like his gay sex scenes in the A Land Fit for Heroes, like in The Steel Remains, which were there just to annoy conservative fantasy readers who think that fantasy has to be heterosexual. So you get like 5 pages of hot
In your
dude
faceness.
on dude elf sex with all the details, and then he goes and posts all the hate mail he got for writing that scene in there.
Okay, that's kind of epic.
That's something I appreciate in what he's doing there, but it's still something
much
that is obviously
art doing its job.
yeah, it's annoying to read, but that's kind of the point. The same way he has, like in one of the Takeshi Kovacs novels, the second one, I think, he has a sex scene about where 2 people are getting it on who are both dying of radiation sickness at the same time, and it's an incredibly painful scene to read because they're trying to get it on and they're obviously failing because they're dying of radiation sickness, and it's about that sort of like conflict between wanting to stay alive or proving to themselves that they are still sort of alive and so forth on the one hand, and that kind of failing, which is once again it's not supposed to be erotic in any way or form. It's supposed to do something else, and I'm fine with that because it's clearly thematically appropriate for what he's doing. But yeah, it's not arousing me.
No, because as I was saying, as the function of art being to engage a reader and provoke a response, and so
I'd feel very, very bad if that scene would arouse me.
well, true. But and Peter makes a point about the nature of consent in Farsia, and I have actually got a discussion on my channel. It's well over an hour long with Joanna and I think Evie, talking literally just about that scene because it's something we all wanted to really discuss and get into because it is an important thing to talk about. So yeah, it can be really useful to have something in there that's a little jarring. So.
Are you reading it, Ethan?
No.
You actually reading?
Are you doing a reading sprint all by yourself?
Hey, we're not going to make fun because she doesn't read when it's reading time. So come on.
That's actually true. That's actually true. My brain is weird. When everyone is reading, I just
you go and
I
cook.
don't.
You eat.
We have actually been talking a lot this particular stream. We could do a sprint.
Yeah.
How does everyone feel about a bit of a sprint?
Yeah, that sounds good. But quickly, Kale, I think it's the second Takeshi Kovacs novel, which is, I think, Broken Angels. I might confuse it with Woken Furies because I always confuse those two, but it's the second one, the middle one.
So let's do a sprint until it's almost 22. So let's do it until 10 past. Make sense?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Everybody enjoy your books. Everybody on screen, don't forget to mute yourself. And see you in half an hour. Hello.
Back to the real world.
Indeed. Evie, does that comment mean that you have finished Days of Shattered Faith? Bye, Terry.
So yeah.
Yeah, Peter, there have been a couple trolls. One of them I blocked while we were reading because he was saying
Yep,
some really
saw that.
stupid shit.
You're talking about the guy who was commenting on beards, or a different one?
What's
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, the
But-
guy was commenting on the beards.
Yeah,
But then he
fucking-
started saying things like, "What?" Because we were
Reading
reading,
was
which he
gay.
didn't understand. He said, "That's the gayest thing I've ever seen." And I was like, "Yeah, we don't
Yeah,
need
that's
to."
offensive on a couple of levels. so yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't mind you finding this kind of weird. I get that, but don't use that
Yeah.
word for it, man.
No.
Yeah, and what are you doing here if you don't know, like you don't know
Or
and
aren't
you
willing to-
But
dislike
it's so in the
reading?
title.
I don't
It
get
is.
it.
To be
and-
fair, there's still people in who visit BookTube that don't know what a sprint is, but most, when they figure it out or I have it explained to them, are like, "What a great idea!"
yeah,
Yeah, and those who go like, well, not for me, then also know how to shut up.
That's right.
Yeah,
They've gone,
exactly.
"Okay, well, I'll
it's
go
just
away and come
basic
back later."
basic politeness.
I have
Evie,
to
did-
Or just go along to
Evie-
get along like I do. 'Cause-
Wait a sec, Evie, did you block? Because Evie is a mod. Did you block the other guy? Because I don't find his comments anymore, which is totally fine with me. I was actually trying to find his comments so I could block him, but
Which
Yeah,
one?
there you go.
The
Pretty onto it.
I forget what scream, bleed, whatever.
Oh
he
no,
had a
they're
weird
still
name.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Why am I
we
not
commented
seeing
just before
It's-
Evie
it's
saying
just
no, still
there
has
on
22
the top.
pages left.
Never
Ah.
Screws for live
There he
streams.
is.
Yeah, that's true. Which is why I still find it quite charming when there's people who discover what a sprint is and go, "Oh, that's a good idea."
yeah.
That's
I-
great
I-
stuff.
I started my next Redwall book, and it has like a total like Conan the Barbarian opening, which is just so cool. It's everyone is all these mice have been enslaved by this pirate, and they're like building his castle, and the slave driver is whipping some elderly squirrel, and then his whip doesn't come down because someone has gripped his whip, and it's Martin the Warrior, the mouse, who is not having anyone else whipping his fellow slaves, and then he's put on like tied to a pole so the seabirds can eat him the next morning, and
Jeez.
It's-
This- so,
no,
so, Conan, so
seriously,
the Conan
these
the
are
Barbarian
some-
movie.
These are some seriously cool children's books. I wish I had read them when I was a kid.
Yeah. So that is basically
plot
the
of
beginning.
Conan the Barbarian, the film.
Yeah. And if you play Conan Exiles, the video game, that is the
Yeah.
beginning of the game. Is you are hung up on a cross, you're crucified in the middle of the desert, and you have to. Conan comes by and cuts you down from the cross, and then you go off to build your life.
So yeah, it's the same thing, just that everyone is like a mouse or some other rodent.
It does actually sound pretty cool, except for that whole thing with the cart. Yeah, no, let's not get into the cart.
Yeah, not like most of it is just like really, really cool shit, really cool stuff.
Yeah, I actually spent most of the sprint catching up on my reading journal. I really want to develop the habit of keeping a reading journal this year.
Show us your reading journal.
Woo!
Oh,
I don't
Um,
understand journals. I'm really bad at this.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm doing, and I'm still developing a system for myself, but what I'm doing basically is I'm writing in one color on this side, just summary thoughts as I go along,
maybe.
and then in the margin, I'm marking pages so I can find particular bits again, and I'm marking themes and various things like that. So, but I'm just sort of working on it.
I want to get
working on
into journaling habit too, but I'm too lazy.
Yeah, that's me too.
Bad done well.
That's me too.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, Peter.
Oh man. Oh, he passed away.
He wasn't a young
Okay.
man. I'm pretty sure.
Well,
He
I
wasn't
wasn't.
particularly young. I think he was.
No.
in
Yeah,
his
he made it to
80s at least.
100.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say he
Well,
lived
that's
a
a
good
pretty
life.
good innings. That's a pretty good innings.
Yeah. Yeah. Bad done well. Yes, we can see your chats, or I
Yes.
can anyway.
Yeah, I see them.
Yeah. Colton has decided to read Redwall. You've inspired yet another reader, Raf.
What?
You have more Redwall readers.
Well, if you want-
Yay.
Well,
Evie, I'm sorry you're going to watch Alien Romulus, but I hope you enjoy it
I haven't
anyway.
watched it yet, but I'm tempted.
I thought it was pretty good. It's a pretty good movie.
Actually,
Because
I
of
haven't
that.
watched it because the previous one was so bad,
So terrible.
so horrible that I thought,
Yeah.
no, you didn't
Having
get
said
banned.
that, I quite like the ones that don't get love from the earlier set. I liked Alien.
Oh, the
Squid, and I
original,
liked,
like before Prometheus.
Yeah, I
those
liked 3 and
movies
4.
are generally.
I mean,
pretty
obviously,
good.
Alien and Aliens are amazing.
Some are
but
better
I
than
liked
others,
3 and
yeah.
4.
But in general, they're good. No, Bad Done
do
Well.
kind of like the third
just
Alien.
let me explain this first, Raf. I will not ban someone just because they've done something slightly wrong once.
Oh, no.
Bad Done Well, you threw some spoilers in there quicker than I
It's
could
totally
warn you, and then I warned you, and then you stopped, and that's fine. The other guys, I said to them a couple of times, be nice. You're looking to get banned. You're working on getting banned. Okay, now you're banned. So it's not just something I do randomly because I like your face. I give people warnings, and you've been behaving perfectly fine after warned. So
Yeah, it's like
no problem.
calling something gay is a no-go, and I think like insulting someone's beard the way that one of them did for Britain was also, that's beyond the pale.
Actually, insulting
It is.
Britain's beard at his age is expected and required almost.
Yeah, but it was
Can't actually see his beard.
like it was the way. It's like this looks like what a female would wear impersonating a male, and like the vocabulary there is the problem.
And it wasn't as we would tease Britain, as somebody who actually knows Britain and likes Britain, and as a friend of Britain would tease a friend.
We're friends
to a
of Britain,
community.
so we know that he pencils on his
They
beard.
can
And
bully
we would
me.
never think to mention that he pencils on his beard because it would embarrass him.
Yeah.
So no, exactly. No, he was definitely being a bit
Mean.
uncool.
Britain has a
Inappropriate.
beard.
I'm surprised too.
I'm sorry, I did not look at the camera. I mean, I did not
that's so
see.
funny.
That is the best Britain's beard diss we've had so far.
I didn't
Man,
mean it
I
like
might
that.
have
I
to-
mean,
I
I
might
did
have
not
to-
observe.
That's
I
all
might
right. That's
have
all right. Take it, Anita.
I might have to
I totally
ban you,
understand that,
Anita.
honey.
I might have to ban you. You're
Just as well we love you.
you're leaning real hard on Britain there. Britain has a
Wrong.
beard?
I'm really sorry. I mean, I did not observe. I mean, I was like, and I did not even see the comment. So this is the first time I'm hearing about your comments.
Hey,
Ron-
so long
Mustaches
as he's
are
got
really
more
cool.
beard than me, I'm fine.
I'm
has
I'm
a-
constantly tempted to shave off my beard and just have a mustache and
Nice, Raph.
and change my hairstyle into like a mullet and only wear spandex. But I
Okay.
No.
No,
There
no,
is
no.
a very large look of horror on my face, Raph. No.
I've been listening to a lot of like 80s and 80s style glam rock recently, and there is that constant
It's glorious.
temptation.
It is glorious.
Yeah,
Very,
Ron,
it's very
Ron
nice
has
beard.
Ron actually has a really good point. Like when I was your age, Britain, I couldn't really grow a beard at all. So
Oh, mine's
you're,
barely even a
like,
beard. It's like a goatee.
well, and your mustache and your soul
Yeah.
patch and all of it. Like that's pretty good for your age. You know, it took me a long time to sort of get to the point where I was like, actually, I can grow it longer, and it doesn't look insane.
For the longest time, I did not actually have a beard. It took me a long time to grow one, and then I shaved it. And at some point, I just like got too lazy to shave it.
Yeah.
Which may or may not have coincided with me getting divorced, but that's
Vera is back. Cheer, everyone. Woo! But she's back for Derry. She's not back for the rest of us. She's only back for Derry. So
I feel honored. She's lovely.
I don't know.
but
Is that dissing the rest of us? I think that's kind of dissing the rest of us, but that's okay.
Or
I don't care.
we're all awesome, but I'm the awesomest.
Well, we knew that.
Don't be silly.
That is definitely true. And Daniel, I've seen your thing about undulate. I did not actually notice undulate in Mistborn, which is like what I've read recently. But there's another, like, there's one of the pirates is like, if like one of the pirates in this book was like, and if this cove ain't giving us slaves, I'm going to slit his gizzards. And that's something that Brandon Sanderson would never use the word gizzards. I'm pretty sure he might also not use the word cove.
He would never have any of his characters threaten to slit anyone's gizzard.
Well, I mean, they're pirates, right?
Of course. Are they actually like
rats?
Pirats?
Some of them for sure. There's also stoats in there. But the pirate king
to be good.
The pirate king in Marielle of Redwall is a rat.
Okay.
Typecasting. Seriously, rats don't get a break.
That's true. It's because of horrible little disease carriers.
But they're so smart. They would be great antagonists.
Darko, I hope that's not you trying to get back to all the sex talk we had earlier, right?
No, we finished that
topic.
He's talking
about the football game.
And Raf, you're lassoing us back into the conversation.
I'm a little surprised. I'm a little surprised that I'm not necessarily surprised that Darko has anything to do with spanking. Do in your free time whatever you want. But I am surprised that Darko and Britain together have boys.
Yes, we invite him over to our house and we spank them. It's like
goodness.
it's
totally
like
a thing.
it's kind of like Eyes Wide Shut, except it's not as shady.
I assume that you go to Darko's house because you live with your parents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
My parents would be like, "What? Stop that."
I think they would have stronger words than just stop that.
Well, you don't know Britain's parents. I mean,
sorry, Vera. Yes, you missed sex talk. We're not going to get back into it now. Had enough.
Sorry. Gotta keep it hush hush.
Thornall, glad if we're helping. That is
I hope you're coming,
Ida, she did not divorce me because of the lack of beard, because I divorced her.
So you had the power play in that particular dynamic. You were the top. Got it.
I was the one deciding to do this quicker than anyone else, I guess.
Fair.
I was quicker on the draw.
You were. It's not always.
Ryan, you just. Oh, that's
I'm
right.
questioning that myself, Ren. You're not alone.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to address something Ryan said earlier about 80s music. Don't you be saying we need to hide the glory of 80s glam. It was amazing. It was amazing. It was glorious. I'm a fan of people just going over the top and being glorious. The
only thing I'm really thankful to 80s music for is it got me into punk, rap, and 60s music. It drove me to find other music.
Hair rock was born in the 80s, and
exactly, which is why I was listening to punk, rap, and 60s music.
I listened to a lot of punk rock. I have grown to appreciate some 80s bands a lot over the last years. I've seen Foreigner play live once, and it was actually incredibly impressive. He plays the sax solo for Urgent live on stage, and that's just like,
that's impressive.
Anyone who can do that is, has my respect.
Also, a lot of the bands that became really famous in the 80s are actually bands from the 70s. So, there's that.
Well, I mean, I did go and see Jethro Tull 3 weeks ago now.
Actually, I remember you saying
I wish I could
that
see
he's still
Tull.
rocking it out with the flute.
Vera,
Love it.
I had the same confusion for many, many, many months. Actually, I thought this Ryan was Ryan Cahill
Oh, yeah,
because
yeah.
both. I mean, even his profile image has dragon in that. I was like, he is very active in Alan's Discord.
But that's the dragon from Game
It's
of
the Targaryen
Thrones.
dragon.
I did not
The
know that.
Targaryen
I was
three-headed
like,
dragon.
hey,
Come
I'm
on.
sorry,
we were sprinting
you
in
did
Alan's
not know
Discord. I was
that?
like, hey, are you the other Ryan Cahill? Are you sure
You
you're
did
not
not
him?
know that.
I wasn't ready to believe him when he said no, actually. It was hilarious.
You
Okay,
did not
so
know the Targaryen
Anita,
sigil, is what I'm hearing.
you didn't recognize the Targaryen dragon?
We need to. Yeah, we need to address that, Anita. You can't keep running away.
No, I blocked her. No.
Oh, that's all right.
You know how
But she
many
does run
series?
away from it.
How many series do you get offended for, Malazan? This Game of Thrones. How many series? You
Yeah,
have to
all the
pick
really
one.
big ones. They're awesome.
There's like very few books that like where people disliking them gets me angry. Actually, there's like
Yeah.
one maybe.
You can narrow it down to one.
Yes,
I was trying to think which ones make Raph angry, and I was like, oh,
it's
I
Winnie
need
the
to
Pooh.
clarify that.
You insult Winnie the Pooh, I get
Oh
personal.
yeah, okay, yeah, yep, I get that. Yep, I would have to be angry about that too.
Everything else is up for discussion, but Winnie the Pooh is sacrosanct.
Winnie the Pooh
Another
is
word that
sacrosanct.
Brandon Sanderson probably would never use.
No, this is true. And let's face it, the Thousand Acre Wood is absolutely canon in everybody's heads. That's a real
Hope you're
place.
unfrozen now, Matt.
Except it is 100 acres. It's not that big.
I might have
It's
to
the
go back
100
to my
acre
old
wood.
book.
It's the 100
Yes,
acre
because
wood.
He
was
wrote
fine.
apparently he wrote a mystery novel, and someone on BookTube read it this year. I don't remember. I think it was Big Al who read it.
Which one?
Maybe.
Big Al does BookTube, I think is his name, which always makes me think of the South Park episode Big Al Big Gay boat ride.
I think there's a lot to discuss
no.
about Peter Pan. I don't know if I'd be okay with insulting it.
Yeah, I think you'd better not.
Different kind
Let's
of.
put it that
yeah.
way.
It's one
You'd
of the
better not.
treasures.
Raph is a huge, or Raph, wherever.
Other way.
Raph
Yeah.
is a
That
huge
hurt a lot.
fan of Peter, not Peter Pan. I'm thinking of Winnie the Pooh.
That
Yes.
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
It's the greatest novel ever written.
Yeah, I
Winnie
just
the
bought a
Pooh
special
is
edition of
wonderful.
all of the collected A.A. Milne Pooh stories.
I used to have a very old copy of Winnie the Pooh, but I left it with my library.
It actually was the first book I ever read in English.
Really?
Oh, okay.
That gives it even more nostalgia. That's kind of awesome.
I mean, I already knew them in German, and then that it was like the first thing I ever read in English because I wanted to read them in English, and I still have that book somewhere around. I don't know how to find it because it's somewhere tucked in with all my role playing game books, but it's certainly around here somewhere.
No, I left mine with my children.
And it's like it's a hardcover with like the old like black and white illustrations from the original edition,
Yes.
which are the cool ones.
They are, and has the beautiful end pages of the map.
Yeah,
which is just gorgeous.
The,
I just love that Eeyore
especially-
was just. I love Eeyore. Eeyore is one. Eeyore is me. I like to be on my own and just be left to do my thing. And that Eeyore is still one of their friends, even though he doesn't really want to go on adventures or do anything.
You're not nearly grumpy enough, Derry, to be Eeyore.
So Raph,
You only ever see my good side, though, guys.
Raph, does Pooh
be
really
but Eeyore
say
doesn't have a good
bother,
side like
or is
you
that
do.
a Disney thing?
What?
Does
No,
Pooh really say
Winnie the
bother?
Pooh does say bother a lot.
Oh,
It's
okay.
the
Or is
one,
that just
the one,
It's like his one curse word.
Yes, bother is the one that he uses.
Yeah.
Yeah. K2U3 just found out Jimmy Carter passed away. Yeah, we mentioned that earlier. I've got a brief Jimmy Carter story where as a very cynical, yes, he was a peanut farmer. And as a very cynical teenager who just thought all politicians were garbage, I went to visit my mother in the American Embassy. She worked in the American Embassy in Australia. And I went to visit her during Carter's presidency.
Okay.
And normally in an embassy, they have a picture of the president in the lobby, you know, and it's usually one of those, you know, like head and shoulders typical portraits. The picture they had of Jimmy Carter was him in a rocking chair on the porch at his house in Georgia with his feet up.
Nice.
With a glass of iced tea next to him, wearing a cowboy hat. And I thought, maybe he's actually a cool president.
Yeah.
I think the thing that Jimmy Carter's presidency taught us is that while he was an actual true believing evangelical Christian, the Christian right turned right to fucking Reagan whenever they wanted to, you know, actually get politics done, which had, you know, were in complete opposite to anything they were supposed to believe. And that's like the sad heritage of Jimmy Carter, is that he showed us that, yeah, there's no principles in the Christian right beyond being racist motherfuckers.
Yep.
Okay, that escalated quickly. Darko, you didn't know Winnie the Pooh was based on books? This astonishes me. This is astonishing. I don't understand a world where that fact isn't widely known.
The adaptation was actually pretty good. Like the animated Winnie the Poohs are pretty good. I mean, and it's kind of like the Lord of the Rings phenomenon. You know, how many people under the age of 30 have I met now who think they're Lord of the Rings fans, but they've never read the books?
Yeah, but not reading the books is different to not knowing they exist.
That's true. That's true.
I agree, Ron. I am not even American, and I was very pissed when I heard about it. Sorry about change in context.
Carter was a very, very cool dude just in general. I mean, to then take, like, if you've been president, you can basically do nothing after that. Like, you're set for life.
You're not supposed to.
No, but you can do very little, right? And
I mean,
he went on to do all sorts of humanitarian work and start all sorts of charity things and promote. I mean, he was a good man. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
you know, coincidentally, in India also an ex-prime minister died this week.
Oh, really?
Very old guy.
Oh, well, I hope nobody of ours goes. The only ones left were the good ones.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Politics in India is crazy.
Politics
in India is berserk.
I agree.
I was there in '98. I was there for 3 months, and there was one night where I was there with a Swiss friend, and we had some Danish friends at the hostel, and we wanted to go out drinking. And we were out in the afternoon, and we were in this little pub, and we said to the guy, "Hey, we'll come back tonight." He's like, "Oh, no, don't come back tonight." We were like, "Why not?" He's like, the communists are marching. And I was like,
okay.
Yeah, so what?
Which
and he's
city,
like,
which city
I'm
were you in?
closing the pub.
Oh, okay.
I'm closing the pub because the communists are marching. And I was like, what does marching mean? He was like, bricks through windows, people getting beat up in the street. Like,
football match crowd.
Really, really serious.
Yeah.
And we were already a bit drunk. So we were like, nah, man, we're going to come back. We'll brave the communist crowds. We're going to be here. We're going to be here. And he was like, okay.
Words there.
I will be here. I will be here. All the lights will be turned down. If you come to the back door, I will let you in. And
sounds like schmuck bait.
We spent the evening in the pub by ourselves, like 5 of us, hanging out with the owner.
Which city was that?
Which city was that? I think it might have been Gaya.
Goa.
Gaya.
What is that? I don't.
Near Bodh Gaya.
I think I know.
Yeah. In Bihar.
Yeah.
That's not marching, that's rioting. That's
just
a football crowd.
Bihar
every single day in Britain.
Bihar is the craziest state in terms of politics. Even we Indians scare, actually, especially from different part of the India, get scared to go to Bihar. So
yeah, Bihar is nuts. Bihar was very strange. We were in a taxi once going between Bihar and Bodh Gaya, Gaya and Bodh Gaya. And our taxi got stopped by a group of Indian dudes on the street, all carrying sticks. And they obviously had a deal with our taxi driver, right? Because the taxi driver was like, you have to pay them.
Right, so it's highway robbery.
And I'm not small, and I had a really huge Swiss dude with me.
Yeah.
And both of us were like, we're not paying them shit. Like, what are they? They're stopping
Give
us
us a square up with some thugs,
huh? The driver was like, no, you have to pay them. And I'm like, look, dude, we've been in India long enough to understand the scam. We're not paying you. We're not paying them. And he's like, they will break my taxi if you don't pay them. And we're like, all right, we're getting out.
Yeah.
And we
How
got
young
out.
were you? How young were you to be this stupid?
I was 28. I was in my 20s, so I was still pretty stupid. But we got out. And first, when the doors opened, these guys were sort of surging forwards. And then when two guys who are over 6 foot tall each,
big massive guys,
Western guys, got out of the back, they were like, I mean, it wasn't like 100 guys. It was like 8, you know?
Yeah.
And they're all half our size. And we walked over to them and we're like, we're not paying you anything. What happens now? And they looked at us and they were like, you have to pay. We're like, we're not paying. They were like, you have to pay. And we're like, we're definitely not paying. You have to get off the street. Out of the way of our taxi. You can stop the next one. That's fine. And they did. They weren't very happy, but they got out of our way and our taxi drove through. Yeah.
See, the main reason for this is if you were Indian, you would have get beaten.
Yeah.
Since you looked like white, they don't want to get into the, they don't want to draw attention from embassies and, international politics.
Yeah.
That's why they
keep it on
gave
the
you
down
away.
low.
Yeah.
Sure.
They're getting away with it, by bribing local police, local officers. They don't want to make it a big issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man,
No,
really
I mean, like I said, we
there.
understood the game already. We'd been in India for
right, yeah.
like 2-3 months already. And we're like, we know how all this stuff works. Just get out of the way. You're not going to do anything to
I'm
us.
going to briefly celebrate a book thing. Darko's going to read Winnie the Pooh with Alicia. Yay!
That
Very
makes
cool.
me very happy. Those are really good books. Also, wait until you come to the Nazi chapter.
Raph, that is so incredibly on brand. I can't even
Yes.
tell you.
But you know
Even
which
Winnie the
chapter
Pooh
I
makes
mean, right?
Raph angry.
No, it makes me very happy because he gets it.
Yeah.
Milton gets it because he was like,
does.
yeah, and Derry knows exactly which chapter I mean.
I do. But yeah, that's Oh, it's Carlos. Hey, Carlos.
Hey, I just watched the
Carlos.
Tubies.
Oh my God, the
I just
Tubies
watched
were
the Tubies
amazing.
tonight.
Oh yeah, they were great.
Yes.
Oh, I had no idea you were naming that award after me. And then when you called that one the Doobie, I just about fell out of my chair laughing. That was the best thing ever.
I wrote a comment on the video though. They missed a huge opportunity. The romance award should have been called the Boobie.
Oh my God, Matt.
Yes, and you just failed by calling it an opportunity, not an opportunity.
Oh, well, okay, right.
Also, the
I
commercials
need
were
to engage
great.
my brain.
Too.
Oh my God,
Carlos, I
this is what-
am super happy to hear that you're going to read the
Kyle,
Bone Hunters. I will give you a tip right now. When you get towards the end of chapter 6, make sure that you have some time, because the best way to read chapter 7, which is 128 pages, is in one go. It is really hard to stop. I started at 11 at night and I finished it at 3:34 in the morning, because I couldn't stop. Yes, exactly. You should have had a booby tubie.
Yeah, like it's like me with Speaks to Nightbird. I couldn't stop reading it once I started at it.
But this is just one chapter. Erickson has a chapter which is legendary. I don't know of any books that I've ever read where everybody who's read them is like, oh my God, that one chapter. Chapter 7 of the Bone Hunters is legendary.
I get that a bit with Hob. There's a couple of legendary chapters. They're both at chapter 26, ironically. Ironically? No.
If you ask any Malazan fan, like, what's the chapter? They'd be like, Bone Hunter 7. Like, that's the chapter. it's legendary, and it's like a novella by itself. It's 128 pages. You
Yeah.
know, it's pretty serious chapter.
Well, there you go.
He's already heard
He's
of
aware.
the famous chapter 7. Yeah.
So wait, why is chapter 7 famous? Is it because it's really good, or
it is very good, but it's
good. It's super.
It's also like one of
emotional,
the longest chapters in the entire series, and it's
and it's 128 pages. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's huge, but it's also
that's where you'll find
really, really good. Yeah.
It's one of the best like war movies that you've ever read, basically.
Well, yes, every Hob chapter is legendary, but some of them are more noteworthy. 2 chapter 26s and a chapter 10.
Rick.
I think like when it comes to that, like for Wheel of Time fans, which I am not, the final battle in that last book, which is I have no idea what it's called, but you know, the 14th book, that one, and that's like a 6 or 7 hour chapter in audiobook, and that has like a similar reputation. I think it's undeserved because it's just like too messy and too long. But
I got Rick. I got really close to reading the final chapter. I DNF'd Eye of the World after about 250 pages. So I almost read the final battle.
Yeah, you nearly got there.
Almost. But yeah, I'm not much of a Wheel of Time fan. I don't have much to say about it, except that the first half of the first book was not so great. Not so great.
I have no intention of reading Wheel of Time.
Memory
if a
of
series
Life.
that we loved has so many fans going, these books are a slog. The worst I can say for Hob is these ones are divisive. I personally loved them.
I had a long period of time where I was like,
Memory of Life, that's the word.
Time,
thank you.
Wheel of Time has so many fans, and there's so many people who love it, and maybe I should give it another go. Maybe I should give it another go. I tried the first book twice and DNF'd it around 200, 250 pages. Yeah. And then what really decided it for me that I would never try it again is talking to Wheel of Time fans about the series.
Right. Like when even their fans can't defend a slog.
They're like, there's a 4-book slog. And I'm like, I would rather shoot myself in the face.
And here's me.
Read 4 books that I know going in.
Here's me being a contrarian. I think some of the parts in what Wheel of Time fans call the slog are actually some of the best stuff that Jordan has written in those books. But that's because Wheel of Time fans are wrong.
Again,
I do love your company, Raf.
to defend Wheel of Time. By the way, I ranted about it. It frustrated me a lot. And people's favorites, 4th and 5th books, I ranted about them. I'm not a big fan. At the same time, I keep thinking about it. Definitely, Robert Jordan created that intrigue. The world is interesting, and the everything he created around that Dark Lord and his followers Forsaken is very interesting, and some of the character arcs are good actually. So I do see why people are crazy about it, and I am planning to read 6th book in next year, like after 1.5 year break. But there are very frustrating things. I completely agree with all the criticisms, but I do see
and to be clear, I read the entirety, and while I hated a lot of it, I did not go there to hate read the whole thing. I wanted to read it because it's been fucking hugely influential, and there's reasons for that. And there are really good things in Wheel of Time. There are things that Robert Jordan is really good at. I would argue one of the things he's best at is actually when he goes into like the more like cosmic horror stuff, like the more horror stuff. The stuff he does with the Ways is really cool. The stuff in Shadow Logoth is really cool. And he's much better at writing horror than he is at writing fantasy, I would argue. There's a lot of like frustrating stuff for me in there. And then there's the whole like rape apologia stuff in book 5 or book 6. I keep forgetting which one it is. And it just drives me mad that people go like, yeah, whatever. I think it's book 5 at the beginning. And he has like a bunch of people who can, use their magic powers to charm people, and they have a conversation about sometimes if you charm someone too much, they actually get physical and so forth. And it boils down to, well, I mean, That's
You've
on
riffed
you
them.
if you do that, and also you kind of liked it at that point, didn't you? And
The same
that's
thing
not
happens.
something you
Oh.
should do
The
in
sa-
your book. Period. And people go
The
like, "This
same-
is feminist." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's you not understanding what being feminist means." And I don't want to tell that to like, anyone.
The same thing happens if you roofie a girl's drink,
Yeah,
You've riffed them.
right? Like,
But that's not the reason I won't read it. Is if of the amount
too
of words
freaking
in that
long.
series, so many of them aren't beloved because some books aren't loved. Let's face it. Because I already struggle reading new books, I don't want to read that many that aren't great because I just don't. It's not.
That's-
It's too
that's
much
the
hard
thing.
work for me.
See,
that's the
that
thing.
is a
They're
long
doing it
series.
again. They're doing it again.
It is
Darko says the slog is more tolerable. If anyone is describing
And if
books
you-
as
It
tolerable to
improves,
me,
that's the
then I'm
improvement mark.
I don't
Tolerable.
want to read tolerable books. I want to read good books.
I just reread the Old Testament, and I would argue that the Book of Kings is tolerable.
There
Isn't
are
that the
lots
one
of
that's
books
in the
that are
beginning?
tolerable.
Parts are. Book
I can
Kings 1
tolerate
and 2 are
almost
tolerable.
anything. I can tolerate a lot, but I don't want to tolerate books.
You just
I want
no.
good
I want to
books.
enjoy them.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry,
enjoyment.
Anita.
At
I
least,
cut you off,
at least a
Anita.
little bit of fun.
It's completely okay. I just want to say that, it's a long series, like 14 book series, and each book is around 700 pages.
It's a
And
lot.
you cannot ask someone to put in that kind of effort. It has to come from them. I know people,
Yeah.
can choose to read it or not. And even slog, if we want to tolerate it or not, we have to decide by ourselves. So we can't either
That's right.
defend that actually, and we have to decide
And
by
hey,
ourselves.
kudos to those who read through and go, well, it was worth it. That's fabulous. Good for you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I am
Yeah,
not prepared on my
I don't want to read a
stressed
series.
brain to make that much effort.
I think
It's too much work.
to sum up my feelings around Wheel of Time, it has been hugely influential. I think it has some really good elements in it that I appreciate, and I do appreciate. The thing is, a lot of people give it credit for the wrong things. The idea that it has strong female characters is one of those, and it's so fucking annoying because all these so-called strong female characters constantly get themselves into issues by being headstrong and not listening to men, and then have to be rescued by men, and that's not strong female characters. And that happens to every single fucking one of them all the fucking time, and it's so frustrating because people go like, "But look, the women have all the power," and it's like, no, they don't. They do stuff, and then they have to be rescued by men. And if you don't understand that that's not feminist,
I think people get confused because in Wheel of Time, female characters, they do have agency.
yes,
People get confused with that with being a strong female character,
yeah,
because most of the other even movies and most of the other
yeah,
fantasy books, female characters don't have agency at all.
yeah, that's true.
They're
Agency,
just
yes,
cardboard
it is a big thing.
characters.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah, that's I agree with that. But like having agency and still needing men to then like save you from actually using your agency. That's the thing that people don't understand, and that's so frustrating to me because like there are cool female characters in there. Like the first book, the one really good character in Eye of the World is Nynaeve. I stand with that. Nynaeve is the one that actually she's the one that has actual
This is
like
the brain
values.
tipping one.
She's the one that always tugs her braids. Yes, she has like actual values. She has integrity. It's like, well, my job is to take care of this village, and someone has taken away 3 kids from my village, so I'm going to go after them and I'm going to take them back home because that's my fucking job. And she does that. She doesn't know like the larger context because no one ever told her. But like. And everyone's like, she's so annoying. She's keeping them from their adventure. It's like, that's her fucking job. Show some respect to the one person who actually does the thing that she's supposed to do. In a series that's all about people not doing the things they're supposed to do.
For me, my only argument really is no. One, I'm in my 50s, so I don't have that many years left to read, and I'd rather at this point focus on making sure I'm reading books I know I'll enjoy. And every Wheel of Time fan that has ever tried to convince me to read the series has driven me further away from reading the series by the way that they describe its flaws. So I'm like, I can do without it.
I know.
No, I'll put it this way. I don't really want to read a series where, no pun intended, the books spin their wheels, if you will.
I want to just point out here that Ada makes the point that I'm fairly feminist, wouldn't mind being rescued. Everybody should be allowed to be rescued. If you're in the shit, you should be rescued. This is something that I think we could all agree on. That if you're a woman, you don't have to be left to get yourself out of it, because that's what feminism is not. What all agency is about, okay, somebody's got themselves in the shit. We will all help get them out. But if you continue to do dumb things, it's not gender related.
Well, I mean, to be fair, Wheel of Time also has like a hardcore gender essentialism. There's like dick magic and there's pussy magic, and that's that. And
Yeah, that's right. And that is kind of the point.
But the problem, no, and that's the problem, because that leads to like one of those really annoying transphobic trans killer storylines where someone who used to be a dude gets like a woman's body, but still has access to dick magic because secretly they're still a dude, and then they become a killer and kill everyone, and no one knows who it could be because only and that's fucking frustrating because it's baked into the fucking world building.
Yeah.
Pisses me off no fucking end. And people calling this like feminist and
we never would have noticed, Ralph, if you hadn't told us.
Time out, Ralph.
I do love how passionate you are. I do. I think it's wonderful.
Hold on,
it's just so frustrating because there's so many good like things that could have come out of this and it doesn't.
Part of it.
Then people go and defend this fucking bullshit about it.
Yeah.
It's like, you can go like, well, I read this as a kid. It had like a huge impact on me. I want to, keep those good memories, but I can be able to. And Wheel of Time fans are so often incapable of admitting any issues with anything in there. And it's fucking frustrating.
Okay, to be fair, that's the case with all fandoms, actually.
Yeah, that's why I hate fandoms.
Ida is apparently now sold, now that you said it has dick magic and pussy magic.
So, Raph, there's dick and pussy magic?
Sort of, yes.
There's magic that only men can do, and there's magic that only women can do.
Yes,
okay.
And the trick is that women can only, magic women can only see women magic and can't see dick magic. And dudes can only see dick magic happening, which is why that whole trans killer thing works.
Beans out of their dicks or something. I'm like, I want to read about that kind.
And it's inherently evil.
Yeah, because they overdid it.
Well, it over amplifies the sense that left to their own devices, each gender just fucks things up.
So here's the thing, and here's the thing, and I haven't explored this. This just happened to pop into my brain right now. Wheel of Time was started to be written. Indulge me for a second. Was written in the 80s and early 90s, and the male magic is tainted by the sickness. Is Bobby J, bless his heart, doing an HIV thing here?
He might be, It was certainly something that was drummed into the
because it was incredibly gay male coded at the time.
Yeah. It was very big in the zeitgeist at the time. It's not a bad lens to be reading it through, that's for sure.
I just realized this because I looked at it again. It's like, it's a problem. It's like, I guess I could make like an academic paper out of that if I felt like it. I just wanted to bring this up. It's like, you could do that.
Yeah.
Don't. It will only reduce your enjoyment even more.
On the flip side, written at the same period of time is Mercedes Lackey's Valdemar series that is full of fluid characters. Whether they're gay, whether they're lesbian, whether they're polyamorous, or whatever, it's very fluid and written at the same time, where it's just an acceptance of people being who they are and that what they are on the inside doesn't impact necessarily their outside.
I mean, so is The Black Company, which was edited by Robert Jordan's wife.
Well, and that's the thing is that what are the authors trying to talk about? And as you just said, if the zeitgeist at the time is putting that fear of HIV and AIDS into people, that's clearly, well, I'm assuming from what you've just said, what was on Robert Jordan's mind. Clearly that whole protection of queerness and rainbow community was in Mercedes Lackey's head. So knowing the zeitgeist of the time is important, which is where I disagree with the whole death of the author thing. You kind of need to know what they existed within to understand what they're doing on page, because that's the conversation they're having.
That's also the big question with the death of the author discussion.
Yeah.
Is it actually relevant to try and understand what the author was trying to do, or just is your experience with the words on the page what's relevant?
Well, until you read the words on the page, you don't know if you need to be having that thought. But read the words on the page and then ask yourself, is this a conversation the author is having with something at the time, or is this a story that stands separately?
But the other question is that even relevant?
Would you get more for having both experiences?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, certainly, like all of this sexism, feminism, etc. talk, I always think of Malazan.
Yeah.
Like I always think of Malazan anyway. But in this particular case, I saw an interview with Erickson, and it never occurred to me. I read the whole series. I saw an interview with Erickson where someone asked him about that. They were like, it's kind of different than a lot of series. You have male and female soldiers just as tough as each other and doing all the same things as each other. And he was like, well, I just figured as sort of a starting point that if you have magic and anyone can do it, then there's no sensible foundation for sexism.
Yeah.
And I was like, that makes so much sense. It's so obvious in a way, but it never occurred to me reading the series because it's so not an issue in the story. Like there are just women and men doing all of the things completely equally. And some of the scariest people in the entire book and most powerful people in the entire book are women. And it's just a non-issue in the series.
I have an unpopular opinion.
Always.
We're totally not shying away from that today.
I have only read like 5 books so far of Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are some frustrating things when it comes to female characters, like specifically like how their dresses and all change when they think of the guys they like.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I observed. Of course, the magic part isn't explained clearly, the differences between male magic and female magic. So far, I did not find anything offensive about that difference. Nothing about the magic, it did not make me uncomfortable yet, actually. So, I'm not sure we'll get that difference in future books. I don't know.
There is no difference. It's just like the main difference is, of course, that like the male side of magic is tainted, which you know by now at book 5, which is where I drew the HIV thing that I just realized right now. Beyond that, they're the same. It's more the idea that you only have access to either one. You can't see someone of the opposite gender doing the other thing, and the idea that someone who was like male at some point while having a different body still has access to that thing and so forth. That's sort of like where the whole idea of like a gender essentialism or like a hard coded gender binary obviously becomes a problem.
Yeah. But a hard coded gender binary was also pretty standard still back
then. Yeah. But I'm not faulting Robert Jordan for having that in there in the 1980s. I'm more like it has consequences that once he gets to that storyline that he decided to put in there of someone changing body, that's where it goes into the whole like the whole like trans killer sort of story, whether he wants to or not. That's
he could have maybe done something more interesting with it that he didn't.
Well, I'm sort of sitting here going, what bothers me about it is the assumption if the male magic is tainted, men, we're boiling it down to brass tacks. We've got men being bad, being tainted, being wrong, and yet somehow female magic is some kind of purifying thing, and that's almost as offensive. It's like, I'm sorry, but women aren't all just
being someone who is not nearly as educated in these things as Raph is and doesn't think about these things that much. And really just doesn't consciously think about these things very often.
No.
When I started reading Wheel of Time, the few pages I got through, and when I learned more about it through the TV series and got the basic idea that like male magic bad, female magic good. First of all, I was like, that's kind of offensive as a male.
Yeah.
But then I was like, well, no, but then it's also kind of balancing the scales, because there's been a hell of a lot of fantasy where only men could or did do certain things, and women were either non-existent or relatively powerless.
No, I
like,
don't.
this kind of balances the
interesting
scales of
conversation
fantasy.
to
I don't mind the idea of that being bad, because it's also clear it's not because they're men. It's because like the evil one, the objectively evil force has cursed that part, and I'm like, yep, that's fine. That's not my problem. It's like the other part that I find really offensive with the gender essentialism in Wheel of Time is that yes, men and women need to work together. I have seen your comments, Vera, but there are exactly 2 instances in the entire fucking series where a man and a woman who are together in a relationship have an actual conversation working out their problems. Everything else is never solved because for whatever reason, and it's stated multiple times in the text explicitly that men can never understand women and women can never understand men, and that's beyond fucking offensive, and that's like, no, motherfucker, that's not how that shit works.
No, you actually have to communicate with them. Changing subject somewhat, and I certainly can't pronounce your name because I have no idea what that says. But your point about The Hobbit having only boys in it that go off on their warring adventure is incredibly valid. Tolkien is writing his story that has men in it because that's what he did. He was a man. He went to war with other men, and that's the story that he's telling. The presence of women isn't always necessary in a story, particularly if it works within the framework of the story. I think it works in the framework of The Hobbit. I think that's perfect.
And then he wrote Lord of the Rings and didn't do a very good job of including the women he included.
No, I was just going to say, but Lord of the Rings is a different matter where we are talking more about the world in general. They're not isolated as a group for the majority of the story. They are actually interacting constantly with other population centres, with other people, and there should have been more women. But the women that you do meet are powerful and have agency. So
Actually, I have no problem, at least when I read the book, having a woman just for the sake of it is worse than having no woman. Actually, I'm okay with the Hobbit or Lord of the Rings where there are no women. I mean, yes, Lord of the Rings have women or not too. I'm okay with that. But having a woman character, like female character who doesn't nothing to the plot just for the
that's just
cardboard
aggravating.
character is much worse, much disrespectful and insulting actually.
It is. It's the tokenism, which is the same thing that the rainbow community has been saying for years. If you're going to have a gay character, make them a character. Don't just have them present so you can tick it off the list. And you know that's a really valid thing. And again, to Lord of the Rings, there aren't very many women, but where there are, they have a role. They have power. They have agency. They're doing a thing to further the plot, and an important thing in many cases, which I appreciate. And Thunel makes the point in Small Gods of Discworld. There are no women in Small Gods because it's in a monastery. That's a pretty valid reason to have no women in the story.
Kind of makes sense.
There's no women monks?
No,
They'll have
nuns.
different church or different
Monk
monasteries.
is a gendered word, Britain.
Yeah.
There's
The
no such
alternative
thing as
would
female
be
monk.
a nun, and this being an all-male monastery.
Damn
because
it!
it's like,
Sorry, that totally escaped my mind.
The whole point of a monastery is to separate the men from everyone else.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Unless you are reading the Decameron, because then the whole point is apparently to set up all kinds of sex clubs.
Oh, we're right back to sex.
To be fair,
honestly.
To be fair, though, in the Decameron, it's usually monasteries of nuns that are doing the convents that are turning into sex clubs.
And with that,
somehow that doesn't shock
I am
me.
going to call it for the evening because it is 11 p.m. here in Germany.
On that note.
And we've gotten onto the subject of sex somehow unavoidably at least 3 times.
Clearly was on the brain tonight.
It has been another extremely interesting pub.
So are you going back to the next convent now, Matt?
Well,
I have actually many times in my life considered becoming a monk.
Yeah.
Like a Buddhist monk, obviously, but
Yeah.
And then I always remembered women, and I was like, yeah, it's not well, and also alcohol. And
One of the fun
Well, it's a bit
like
Jon Snowish, isn't it? Well, you don't know what you're giving up if you do that, because
one of the
and
nice
see, I already do because I'm a
when
lot
you do
older
know,
than
you're
Jon
like,
Snow.
well,
yeah,
Yeah,
one
no.
bit
one
of
of
a
the
sacrifice.
one of the most interesting things was like in high school we went to like a Benedictine monastery for like the performance of like Gregorian singing and stuff or
Oh
whatever.
wow!
We had a conversation with one of the monks there, and obviously us being teenagers, obviously someone asked about like monks and sex, and he's like, "Yeah, well, of course everyone has had some form of homosexual desire in here. So you put a bunch of dudes in like one place and all they see is men. At some point you're gonna develop romantic feelings for other men. That's just like what happens."
Yeah.
And the fact
Because
that like he
humans
was like
always
so
need
I was like, yeah, of course that happens. Like, yeah, we don't act on that because we we do celibacy, but that doesn't mean there's no romance happening in a monastery.
I've always thought that the Asian religions, and I think it's the same in Hinduism. Anita knows more about that, a lot more about that than I do. But certainly in Buddhism, monk is not a lifetime job necessarily.
No.
For some people it is. But I met a lot of guys. I met a guy who had a very successful business exporting Nepali fabric to the West.
Yeah.
And we were hanging out a lot, and we were out one day, and he said, we were talking about something, and he said, oh yeah, when I was in the monastery, blah, 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 like in his past.
Oh, back
and
when
I was like, wait a sec, you were a monk? And he was like, dude, everyone was a monk. Like every guy goes and serves in the monastery for a time, and maybe they stay because it's their thing, or maybe they come back to their family and start up a normal secular life. Anita, you have your finger up.
As
Good
far
manners.
as far as I know, in Hinduism, at least, monks do have families. Having a family is not related to being faithful to God or believe in God. Actually, even priests do have
spiritualism.
families, monks do have families, and there are some gods or some um, monks in the mythology who did not have families, but that's not like that's not a rule as such, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I mean,
And I like that.
the interesting thing with the monks in Buddhism as well, Tibetan Buddhism anyway, is the full set of monks' vows are 384 promises.
Wow. Okay.
But there are sets of those that you can take.
Oh, okay.
So
So
you
you don't
can-
necessarily have to
You can take
do all
the
of them.
vows that mean you don't drink alcohol and you don't eat meat, but you don't give the vow that means you don't have sex and you can't have children, you can't get married. So I know Tibetan Buddhist monks who are married and have children. In fact, the highest teacher in our lineage of Tibetan Buddhism has a kid and a wife. And other monks have taken other vows or more vows or whatever, and they don't do that at all. And the other thing, which is confusing to a lot of people that are used to black and white Christianity, you can take a vow and then you can give it back.
Okay. So you can choose
so you
an
can
end to
promise,
the point
you
at
can
which you're
promise
held
not
to
to
that
drink
vow.
alcohol for 10 years. Like I taught English to a monk who had taken a vow of not eating meat.
Right.
But then he was sent by his teacher to go on a long trip where he was going to have to beg, and he was going to have to eat whatever he could get, and he was going to be guest to other people who would serve whatever they serve. And he gave the not eating meat vow back to his teacher, and then went on this travel and ate meat like it was no big deal.
I like that.
Anita,
But
you
it's
have
an
your finger up
acknowledgement.
again.
It's a choice.
Okay. Again, I'm not sure if I should say Hinduism or Indians. Okay, in Hinduism, not eating meat, not smoking, not drinking is not these are not just for monks. They advise it even for anyone, actually, humans.
It's not bad advice.
Yeah.
It's
For
good
example,
advice for everybody, really.
yeah. For example, I don't drink or I don't smoke. Yeah, I do eat chicken. That is a different issue. But in
Chicken's
one
not
of
meat. It's okay.
in one of the sects, I mean, India has a caste system, right? In one
Yes.
of the castes, they don't eat meat as well.
Yeah.
Few
Okay.
of the castes as well.
Mhm.
So, and many people don't smoke or drink. That is
Mhm.
very commonly advised, actually, not just for monks. It's a
Is
way
it
of
is
I
it
mean,
life.
it's
too
pretty
is it,
healthy no matter what
is
you
it
believe.
is it too personal, Anitha, to ask what caste you grew up in?
No, not at all. I'm not sure if you've heard about this. I belong to Reddy's caste.
Okay.
With
Yeah,
this.
I know it. I mean,
Okay.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time in India, but
Okay.
yeah. Okay.
Like that.
Okay.
Okay, Matt, here's the thing. My claim. Christian monks in the Middle Ages were the medieval equivalent to booktubers because they spent all their time sitting at home reading books and then talking about it
Talking
or
about them.
writing books about books.
And enjoying nice wine and beer.
And having homosexual sex.
Well, yeah.
Potentially.
That's good.
I see you do have read Umberto Eco.
I just have a very basic understanding of human desire and logic.
Yeah, pretty much.
You don't need to have read Umberto Eco. I think.
That's-
Well, and I
that's
also
just
went to a
human.
Catholic boys' school, so
Yeah, okay. In that case.
I know priests.
So
yeah.
you were made to become a booktuber is what you're saying.
You just
Kind of.
Queen of
Kind
Thorns. You didn't
They made
engage
me
in
a
a little bit
booktuber.
of random. Anyway.
Yeah. I wasn't good. I wasn't a good-looking enough kid. I'm still not
my
good-looking
God.
enough for a priest to be interested in me. But I had a funny experience many years after I had left the Catholic boys' school. I was sitting in a pub when I was
Yeah.
already in my 30s, I think.
As you do. I hear you.
I was sitting in a pub, and this huge meaty hand landed on my shoulder from behind, and he said, "Are you Matt?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I looked, and I'm going to change his name. He said, "I'm Paul. You remember me?" And I looked at him, and I was like, "Oh, fuck me. You are Paul, but you've been
You
working
grew up.
out, dude. You're big." And he said, "Yeah. You want to know why?" I said, "Sure." And we were good friends back in high school. But in high school, he was a thin, very pretty
was little.
boy. He was a little, very, very pretty boy, right? He was probably the prettiest boy in my class. And he
pretty
told me
boys
the
are really
story
beautiful.
of abuse by the priests. And he was like, as soon as I got the fuck out of there,
So
I thought,
sad.
no one's ever going to do that to me again. And I got big.
Yeah.
And I was like,
That's
okay,
so
dude.
sad.
No, the way you look
It is
now,
sad.
no one's ever going to do that to you again.
You mean
And,
like
oh my
he
God,
was-
I'm so sorry to hear.
Do you
Yeah,
mean
I'm
like
so
he got
sorry to
shredded
hear.
or he got fat?
No. He was totally.
Okay.
He worked out a lot. He was a fine
Bulky guy.
specimen of muscle.
Scary guy now.
Yeah, he was.
Well,
a
the fact
big
that you
dude.
called it a
Sorry.
meaty hand kind of gave that
Yeah, no, he was
sensation to me. I was
just
like, oh, okay.
he was a
Yeah.
solid, extremely strong dude.
And it is
we
really
drank
sad that
A
somebody
lot of
has
beers that night.
altered their life to such
And
an extent because that's what
I-
trauma does.
I, as a not very pretty boy, didn't have any
Didn't
idea
have
this was going on.
Yeah.
Even though he was one of my good friends, he never talked about it.
Yeah.
Because you don't
No, that's the thing, right? This kind of, I don't know, predator is the right word. They
is.
count on the silence of victims,
Yeah.
because they made sure that as a society, even we made sure that victims are the ones to be blamed. We shame
Yep. And
victims
questioned and
more than
doubted.
the
and
predators.
made to feel
The worst
responsible.
part of his story, the absolute worst part of his story, is I
Nobody
said,
believed.
couldn't you talk to your parents or something? Couldn't anyone do anything about it? He said, I tried to explain it to my mother and she shut me up.
Yeah.
Because they were so strongly in the church. They
Yeah.
were involved in, supporting the priests and helping organize events and whatever, that she just didn't want to hear it.
Look, I mean,
That's so sad.
I was been
No.
reasonably
It was
absent from
horrible.
BookTube in the last year because my younger stepsister has brought forward historic charges against one of our stepfathers. And I can tell you now that when our mother said no, that didn't happen. We're not going to do that. That's how ingrained it is in an aspect of humanity is I don't want to face the reality of that. I don't want to look at it. I don't want it to exist. So I'm going to deny that it happened.
Yeah.
And the what's the word I want? The not even poison, but it taints everything. If you've been a victim to it and somebody who you trust, who is a pillar of safety for you, goes, no. What is the point of going anywhere else for support? Because if this person isn't going to support you,
who else? Yeah.
Who could you possibly go to?
Paul said he doesn't talk to his family anymore.
No.
Because of all of this. It's like it completely defined who he became, you know.
That's
all of us
horrible.
grew up with an awful relationship with, well, not awful, but with a very difficult relationship with our mother as a result.
Yeah.
Because you should be able to
trust that's like the whole Alice Munro thing as well, right? From this year, talking about like a big one, like a can I say popular about people that actually win Nobel prizes? I don't think so, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
acclaimed.
I don't know if this. Oh, it's a good word. Yes,
popular as in everybody knows about it. Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, it's a lot, but anyway.
Yeah,
Anita has to go, and I already tried to sign up already anyway. So why don't we just go? It's been lovely. Thank you, everyone that joined me on screen. Thank you, everyone that joined in the comments. A few more people than usual, which is awesome. A couple of them were assholes, which is not so awesome, but they've been blocked, so they won't be back.
It was brief.
Yeah, it's as always been an absolute pleasure and a slightly strange.
We went to some extremes.
It kind of ended on a dark note. But
time.
It was fun.
Well, we went everywhere. We had sex. We laughed our asses off at your beard. You know, we've been everywhere tonight. It's
Aslan. Aslan, one thing. Copying books in the dark is not needed to become blind. I can promise you that.
No.
Okay.
All right, take care, everyone.
You can totally get blind without it.